Hokage give me a face. Bleach. Chapter 81-100. Chapter 81 _ Back to the Realm of Souls. The sunshine in the soul world is really beautiful. After coming out of the gate of the world, Yizan stretched a lot in front of Kazuki Urahara, and then said hello, yo, Uncle Urahara, long time no see. Actually, you only left the soul world for 3 days. Urahara Kazuki looked at him. I don't know when I was promoted to uncle. I haven't seen you for a day, like every 3 autumns. Haven't you heard of this sentence? Oh, it seems a bit strange to use it on this occasion. But haven't you always been an uncle? Look carefully. How can someone like me look like an uncle? Urahara Kazuki pointed at his face in dissatisfaction. I'm not the same generation as the leader of the Jing band at all. But you seem to be of the same generation as Captain Fuju. Yizan smiled as he looked at his jumping feet. Then, I'm going to find old man Yamamoto to hand in the task. Urahara Kazuki looked at his flashing figure and shook his head speechlessly. Here, Yizan sat on the table carelessly, took out a bag from his arms and threw it to Yamamoto Shigekuni. 100, one more and one less. Yamamoto Shigekuni flipped the bag over, and a pile of white bone tips fell on the table. You can find so many ghosts in 3 days. He looked at Yizan in surprise. I thought you guys would go for at least 10 days. It's probably because they haven't seen the god of death for too long, so they miss it very much. They are very enthusiastic. Yizan shook his fingers in front of Yamamoto Shigekuni. No matter if they took the wrong medicine or what happened, in short, my mission is complete. You can't trouble me anymore because I demolished the House of Jingling Court or played the secret mobile team. This is your duty as the captain, and you can't bargain. Yamamoto Shigekuni was also tempered by Yizan, and he didn't get angry, and he didn't sway, but persuaded him in a good voice. Old man, you said that, you will make me feel uncomfortable. Yizan touched his arm exaggeratedly. By the way, do I have the final say in recruiting people in the squad? Yamamoto Shigekuni glanced at him. The funds allocated to each division are limited, as long as you don't run into deficits and you can recruit people. Oh, Yizan waved his hand, jumped off the table and left. Pay attention to the balance between men and women, don't just recruit girls. Yizan almost fell over as the words of the exhortation came into his ears. Tell me yourself, there are women in the 10th division besides men. Yizan snorted coldly. I'm the captain anyway, and the 10th division listens to me. Seeing Yizan's stubborn departure, Shigekuni Yamamoto only felt a headache. Every one of the captain's disciples has their own personality, said Jiro, the head of the sparrow who always stood by the side. Yizan is quite similar to the leader of the Jing band when he was in school. He's even more out of control than Chunshui. Yamamoto Shigekuni sighed. It's too self-willed, only to be the captain for a few days, challenging Fengchao Luzhiro, instigating Kuchiki Byakuya, and hijacking Siphon Yuan Yaiki. I thought he would be allowed to go. Killing Killian in the virtual circle will reflect on his own mistakes, but he still underestimated his strength. Quote. People who are strong will have some hobbies more or less. Even the captain is no exception. Minister Jiro looked at the ribbon Yamamoto Shigekuni tied to his beard. Young man, impulsive willfulness is normal, and the captain is also young, so it should be understandable. Quote. When I was young, how long ago was that? Yamamoto Shigekuni raised an eyebrow. Rukia, you're very diligent. Yizan walked into the 10th Division team building, and as soon as he looked up, he saw Rukia practicing slashing against the straw man. The weather is so hot, why don't you take a break? Brother Yizan. Rukia looked back to see Yizan, with a look of joy and anticipation on her face. When will you be back? I just came back and reported to the captain. Yizan walked past Rukia and rubbed the top of his hair. Girls shouldn't practice kendo when the sun is so bright, they will get tan. Ah, yes. Lucia stood upright, but Yuhi fainted on his face. I'm going to practice ghost ways. Yizan looked at the back of her fleeing on the road, and smiled playfully. I feel like my charisma has skyrocketed recently. Can't even my little sister Rukia escape the aura of my male god? Sometimes, being too popular is also a burden. You say so, kid. Yizan turned to the shadow around the corner. Envy me or envy me? Humph. Asanjing Renji snorted coldly, turning her head to look aside. Yizan looked at his unconvinced face and did not dare to provoke due to his own strength, and suddenly became interested in teasing him. I haven't seen you for a few days, your temper is still so big, come to practice. I can learn something from practicing with other team members. Besides being hanged and beaten by you, is there anything else I can do? Sanjing held his head high, with a look of unwillingness on his face. I'm not stupid. Quote. But I think you're quite stupid. Yizan sat down in the corridor and put his foot on his knees, eat my blessings, and raised eyebrows at my master. I'm sure I'm watching Rukia won't drive you out for face. If you dare to drive me away, you will regret it in the future. Asanjing Renji held his bamboo sword with a firm tone. I guess you're going to say, I'm going to beat you in the future, or, I'll be captain in the future, something like that, am I right? With that said, Yizan pointed at the position where Asanjing Renji was standing, and he rolled and flew out like a paper cup blown down by the wind. The disgraced Asanjing Renji got up from the ground and looked at Yizan's eyes as if there was a burning flame. You wait. Later I have Zanpakuto, and I will let you taste everything you have done to me. But, before that, you have to get Zanpakuto again. Who knows when you will get Zanpakuto? Yizan deliberately pretended not to care. I'm talking, there are Zanpakuto but there are many people who can't beat me. Where did you get your confidence? Chapter 82-Justice and Fairness. I will definitely defeat you. Asanjing Renji roared aggressively. But if you say that, I want to bully you even more. Yizan showed a wicked smile on his face. At least until you are strong enough to defeat me, I will pay more, don't you think? Hearing Yizan's words, Asanjing Renji stepped back again and again, and couldn't even hold back the harsh words. She turned her head and ran away angrily. It's still so boring. Yizan leaned back and lay directly on the floor in the corridor. No one fights, and there is no plot. Am I going to stay in this soul realm for decades until Ichigo Kurosaki appears? That's too boring. My goal is to get the power of destiny, not for old age. Gotta find a way. Yizan put his hands under his head, and the fact that Urahara Kazuki was also making collapsed jade was revealed to Aizen, so Aizen should take some action. Yizan remembered Rukia he saw just now. At this time, whether Urahara Kazuki's collapsed jade has been built, will it be already? Hey, no. Reversely, in the 50 years before the plot happened, Byakuya married Feijun. After 5 years, Feijun died, and then another year later, Byakuya found Rukia. But when the plot happened, Yu Urahara Kazuki has been sentenced to 100 years in the Soul Society. So, how much earlier did I bring Bai Zai and Feijun to get married? 50 years. Or more. At this moment, Aizen didn't extend her claws to those people in the masked army, did she? One by one is not alive and kicking. Could it be that the original time period was when Aizen started experimenting? Yizan tapped his head and felt that his head was a little bigger. So Feijun is actually dying of old age. After all, a person without spiritual power will not survive for a long time in the soul realm. Especially in an environment like Jingling Court. It's so annoying. What should I do now? Rukia was brought back decades in advance by herself. Did Kazuki Bengurahara put it in her body? Where would it be if not? If there is any, just take it out. Anyway, Aizen took it out once, and Rukia didn't suffer any injuries. After recuperating, she could play Zanpakuto like Amaterasu. Yizan thought of this, his eyes were deep. It's better to pass the news to the blue dye guy, and let him check it himself. However, I can first confirm whether Urahara Kazuki has made the collapsed jade. Captain looks troubled. Dong Xian Yao's voice sounded overhead. You just came back. Sit down. Yizan patted the empty floor beside him. Very polite, but it was still just the floor. Dong Xian wanted to sit down without any objection, and seemed to have no intention of speaking. Don't talk and come and ask me what I'm doing. Troubles cannot be the troubles of one person, it is fair to exchange them with each other. It's just a small matter for me, but I'm just thinking about how to arrange for the female players after recruiting them in the future. Female team member. Dong Xian wanted to twitch his lips. Yeah, female players. Yizan glanced at him. The captain said that men and women should be balanced. Look at our team, except for men, all men are men. The only one, Rukia, will start school next semester and go to classes. Unbalanced, we must find a girl as soon as possible to balance the male-to-female ratio. Quote. It's my reason that there is no goddess of death in the team. Dong Xianyao said suddenly. Huh. Women are always weaker than men. When he said this, Dong Xianyao's expression was extremely serious, so serious that it was impossible to interrupt. Like Saifeng Yuan Night 1, Yizan said this sentence with a little teasing mood. She's an exception. Dong Xian wanted to explain in embarrassment. Then, or Captain Unoka. They are the exception. Toru Yuyan. Well, he's not very strong. Then there are Lisa Yahomaru and Hiyori Sarakaki. They are also good. Dongxian was going to be blocked by Yizan again and again, so he almost didn't pull out Zanpakuto and cut the captain. He groped to stand up, but was held down by Yizan. I just relax the atmosphere, don't be angry, don't be nervous. Sit down and talk slowly. Brother Yizan patted him on the shoulder. I'm your captain, let me know what you think, I can do it. I will help you. Won't interrupt me again. No, absolutely not. Toxian nodded. I'm from Liuhun Street, just like you. Dongxian wanted to start with this sentence, and then paused for a while, only to continue talking after realizing that Yizan was really not going to continue complaining. When I was in Liuhun Street, I had a friend who was very enthusiastic and energetic. Her dream was to become a god of death. I always felt that a job like a god of death was not suitable for women at all, but she insisted that I only blessings. Later, he graduated from Shino as he wished, and became a god of death. How can another person who is also a god of death get married? Speaking of which, he had a long pause. Obviously, his heart was complicated, and after that, he continued to talk. When I knew it, someone else came to inform me to attend her funeral. The man who killed her was only sentenced to prison. At that moment, I suddenly realized that there is no justice and fairness in this world. Well, I don't want to discuss the profound topic of justice and fairness with you. Let's talk about the goddess of death first. Do you think that women should not be gods of death because your girlfriend is a goddess of death and sacrificed? At least not where I can tell. Yizan simply obeyed his logic and sneered, you love so deeply. If you knew you loved so much, why didn't you just marry your girlfriend? Bye-bye to other men and cause her to die. You say, I'm also wrong. Dong Xianyao's tone was very shocked, and he nodded after a while, I also think I'm wrong. This guy looks like a masochistic personality. Yizan complained silently in his heart, and then began to prepare a flicker to refresh the worldview of Dongxian. I'll give you an assumption. By the way, do you like that girlfriend? I'm talking about liking a man's liking for a woman, not something else, don't get me wrong. Chapter 83_Planning in Progress. Dong Xianyao didn't answer whether he liked it or didn't like it, but answered the question, I'm born invisible. So you actually like her, but you don't dare to confess because you can't see it. Yi Xuanliang nodded, leaving no time for Dongxian to defend himself, so this matter could have not happened. If you mustered up the courage to confess to the girl in the morning, are you now a beautiful woman? Even if you don't hold a beautiful woman, at least her murderer husband can't marry her, right? Dongxian wants to be silent. You are a dignified deputy captain, can't you compare to such a person? Yizan patted Dongxian's shoulder solemnly, so, I should recruit more girls in our team. After all, I am such a captain who loves Shangxiangxiyu. Will definitely help them to check, and never let them marry that kind of guy who is inferior to the beast. So, after all, you just want to find a girl. Dong Xian said in a muffled voice, our team is a fighting force. Then what's the matter? I will protect them when the mission is out. Yizan patted his chest and said in a natural tone. I became the god of death, not because of personal feelings, but to maintain justice. But this has nothing to do with recruiting girls. Yizan frowned. Do you want to discuss justice with me? This kind of thing, I have never cared about it. Yizan thought it was a little funny, and remembered that the person in front of him was obviously a middle-aged patient. Or the kind that went all the way to the dark, severe. However, Aizen brought him under his command just by fooling him with his secondary illness. As Aizen's immediate boss, he really couldn't criticize it. Do you have justice in your heart? Yizan raised his eyebrows. Do you want to hear the truth? No. The moment Yizan answered, Dong Xian wanted to stiffen his whole body for a moment. No. Justice is a matter of opinion. I only do what I want to do. Why should I care if he is righteous or not? Yizan started to fool Dafa. If you really want to say, who defines the boundaries of justice? This world, is there anyone in the world who is never biased and absolutely righteous? If there is none, I am righteous. What do you think? I is justice. Dong Xianyana said to himself, I am justice. Saying this resolutely, he faced Yizan. You are fine. Of course I'm fine. Want you to say. Yizan turned over Byakugan, looked at this guy who had obviously been fooled by himself to the second road, and shook his head slightly. Among the younger brothers, Aizen had the highest IQ, and really sympathized with his younger brother. Oh, I seem to have added to the flames. Is that by chance? Late at night, the 10th Division Captain's Lounge. Now that the research has reached a bottleneck, I need to do experiments. After saying this, Aizen looked at Yizan quietly and did not continue, apparently waiting for Yizan's answer. But at least it should be a little more specific, right? What research did you do? What experiment to do? Who the hell knows? No, people in the entire corpse and soul world are spiritual bodies, as if they are all ghosts. Then put it another way, ghosts don't even know. In more detail, you just said something like this. How do I know what you're going to say? Research on the power beyond the god of death itself. In simple terms, the god of death becomes virtual. Has it come this far? Yizan raised his eyebrows. Not long ago, he also said that this time period would be the time when Urahara Kazuki and Sefenjin Yaiki betrayed. I didn't expect it to be true. You want to experiment with death, but ordinary death is not enough. Yes. Lan Ran saw Yizan's raised eyebrows, and subconsciously avoided his eyes. On the one hand, he felt that he had nothing to do with his guilty conscience, and on the other hand, he felt that the next words were a little difficult to speak. However, the target he chose was Liuch Quanchi, an inconspicuous person who was not particularly outstanding. Besides, people like him should understand that in order to achieve the final goal, it is a matter of course to make a little sacrifice. Who do you want to use? Aizen was silent for a moment. Liu Che Quanchi. Yizan heard the uncertainty in that voice and couldn't help but feel a little funny. I didn't expect that this Aizen Wright, who played the whole soul world, was afraid to face me. Am I really such a terrible person? Just him. Didn't you say you're not allowed to attack your friends? Or do you give me a list of people you can attack? The tone of Lan Ran's rhetorical question was somewhat resentful, and Yizan could also hear it. However, if it won't kill you, just let it go. Anyway, there will be Urahara Kazuki in the end. Who asked this guy to study Bengyu? As long as the rumors are leaked, he will also be investigated, so there is no way to get rid of the suspicion. What's more, no one would fail because of this experiment in the first place, and in the end, they all benefited from misfortune and had the power to break the face. From a certain point of view, this should also be considered a good opportunity, right? Your collapsing jade is ready. Yizan felt that he still had to pay attention to the progress of the experiment. No, Aizen pushed his glasses and sighed deeply. The results are not ideal, so I will try to find a breakthrough in the power of emptiness. It's a good idea. Yizan nodded. Did you tell Dongxian about your 2.4 plan? Or an idea? Hearing this, Lan Ran's face stiffened and looked at Yizan seriously. How do you know? Because he asked me a question about justice and sacrifice before, and it happened that you were talking about this today, and I thought of it. Yizan shook his head. My vice captain is an upright person, he was led into a ditch by you. Went. Compared to me, Captain Yizan is not too arrogant. On this point, Aizen showed no weakness. Actually, I'm complimenting you, it seems you didn't hear it. Yizan smiled, however, he still has a chance to get what he wants, as long as he and the boss work hard enough. What do you say? I feel the pressure on my body is heavier all of a sudden. Chapter 84-Bokeh. Report to the captain. The northwest direction has detected the presence of ghosts. I don't know the level, but the 3 people who went to encircle and suppress have completely lost contact. They should be at the level of the big ghost. A team member said outside the door. The deputy captain is Zan Luo, already go ahead. Da Shu. Lu Che Quanxi frowned. Come and see with me. In the woods, the small but extremely twisted and ugly Shu is facing off against a group of death gods. The 3 death gods who first discovered it have been completely swallowed up. Moreover, not only the first 3 were swallowed, but also several who arrived later. Now, their spirit bodies are still struggling to reveal traces from their distorted bodies. Or a grim expression, or a hand struggling for help. But they will eventually be swallowed and digested by this phantom. Aizen has done countless experiments in the virtual circle, and finally found that only the spiritual power is strong enough to defeat this virtual death. It is possible for his experiment to succeed. The strongest Grim Reaper has no other choice but the captain. From beginning to end, Aizen watched 30 from the sidelines. Jininbai held the Zanpakuto in his hand with a cautious and careful attitude. She has never seen such a terrifying emptiness. It's not how powerful the strength is, but this devouring gesture, which is really scary. She has tried many ghost ways just now, or it didn't work, or she was dodged. And the people who first used Zanpakuto to cut were swallowed up without exception. That kind of weird black spread from Zanpakuto. Obviously, from the perspective of Reiatsu and attack power, this is just the most ordinary virtual. When she was on guard, Liuch Quanxi finally arrived. Silver's white hair and tall figure made him stand out in the dark. Captain. Seeing Liuch Quanxi, Ju Nanbai was obviously relieved. What's going on? Lu Che Quanxi looked at the bumps on Shu's body that sometimes bulged and disappeared. He didn't know that those were his subordinates. The only feeling was that this was a strange Shu. That Shu is resistant to ghosts, and if you cut it with Zanpakuto, it will be swallowed up. Ju Nanbai said with difficulty, including the first 3, 7 people have already been swallowed. Just an instant thing. Quote. After listening to Ju Nanbai's description, a hint of caution flashed across Liuch Quanxi's face, but it soon turned into fighting spirit. Things are weird, you first contact the other squads and let them shoot reinforcements. But before that, I can try the strength of this thing first. It's not the level of Vastord, can it be better than my Zanpakuto? He said, pulling out Zanpakuto. Let's be ashes, cut off the wind. The words fell, his Zanpakuto began to glow green, and a whirlwind formed from the blade's edge, circling him like a tornado. Captain, we can't communicate with the outside world. It's a trap. When Jinin's vernacular voice fell, Liuch Quanxi's knife had already been swung out. A flickering thin line flew out of the windroll, and flew straight to the virtual that Liuch Quanxi wanted to attack. The explosions sounded one after another, and it was too late even if they found something wrong. Black water sprayed around with mist. Liuch Quanxi soon realized that something was wrong with him. It seems that something is sprouting in the body, trying to break free. He looked sideways, and saw that most of his subordinates had collapsed to the ground, and the remaining few had not fallen to the ground, with extremely terrifying expressions on their faces. That expression is definitely not inferior to that of a human being. Jinan, run away. He looked at Ju Nanbai with difficulty. Here. Then, he saw Ju Nanbai slowly turning his head, with a strange and terrifying bone mask on his face. Virtual. He touched his face in surprise. Unexpectedly, it was a cold hand. Kenshi. Hirako Mako's voice came from a distance, accompanied by other familiar voices. This time, Jingling Court should attach great importance to it. The captain and vice-captain who were nearby were summoned. Liuch Quanshi wanted to keep them from getting close, but only a roar came from his throat, and then his body seemed to be controlled by another person. Yizan stood in the conference room, looking around the room that was empty. There were only 12 captains in total, and there were 4 missing all of a sudden. However, nothing has changed from the original. Didn't Aizen say that he only used Liuch Quanshi for experiments? Could it be that because I said it was okay not to die, he let go of his courage? Or is this an accident? How to deal with this matter now? What are your thoughts? Yamamoto Shigekuni looked around with a serious expression at the 7 remaining captains who were present. The 4 Urahara Kazuki was recruiting for treatment. Obviously, this is a conspiracy against the Soul Society. Because his adjutant was also involved, Jingle Chunshui's face was unprecedentedly serious, but there were no clues left at the scene. Moreover, there are still 400% of unusual substances remaining in that area. Siphon Yuan Yi said, when this substance reaches a sufficient concentration, it can achieve the transformation from death to emptiness. Whose conclusion is this? Yamamoto Shigekuni suddenly asked. Siphon Yuan Yaiki was a little unclear, but he still replied, Urahara Kazuki. From death to emptiness, so it's already emptiness. Yamamoto Shigekuni's words were sharp and straightforward, in one sentence. Indeed, those 8 people can no longer be regarded as pure death gods. Next, Urahara Kazuki will be reported for contraband research and exiled to the world, and then the Central 46th Office will issue an order to treat the former captain and vice-captain in a false way. Yizan sighed with emotion. Then they will escape to the world with the help of Yoichi and the tacit consent of the other captains, and with the help of Urahara Kazuki, they will hide and form the Faceless Army. Destiny is such a domineering thing. Obviously, when I said it last time, there were only 6 chariots in the west. Probably there is also an element of Aizen's personal revenge. After all, their 5th division looks very harmonious, and the infighting between the captains and vice-captains is also turbulent. It's just a pity my Miss Lisa. Yizan rubbed his brows and was a little speechless. Chapter 85_Go straight down. As to how to deal with them, I will discuss this matter with the Central Office 46th. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked gloomy, and his sharp eyes swept over the people present. The impact of this matter is very bad. The most urgent thing is to strengthen patrol. The 3rd division to which Hohashi Rojiro belonged, the 5th division to which Hirako Mako belonged, and the 7th division to which Aikawa Rau belonged, their vice-captains would temporarily act as captains. As for the 9th division to which Rokuchi Kensai belonged, because the deputy team long-term Nanbai has also been blurred. Yizan, your deputy captain Dong Xian was originally the 5th team of the 9th team, and was recommended by Liuch Quanshi to become the vice-captain of the 10th team. I'm very familiar with him, so he will take over the 9th division. Is there any problem? Of course there is a problem. Yizan raised his eyebrows. Without the vice-captain, I have to deal with a lot more things. Will I get a salary increase? What responded to him was Yamamoto Shigekuni's big crutch. As soon as you disagree, old man, it's not very good for you. You are suspected of relying on the old to sell the old. The 2nd division is also in charge of the secret mobile team, and there are 5 sub-teams under it. The 4th division is in charge of rescue. Of course, there is no time. Captain Kuchiki is also responsible for handling disputes between nobles, and the 13th division has no deputy captain. Floating Bamboo is also not in good health. Besides you, is there a more suitable candidate? And him. Yizan pointed to the Ghost Rock City Wusuk standing opposite. After saying this, Yizan remembered another thing. In other words, if Dongxian wants to be the captain of the 9th division, isn't it bad for me to stop him like this? If Dongxian couldn't be the captain because of this, wouldn't it be impossible for him to make a career? However, that guide didn't seem to have any effect at all. Just when he was hesitating whether to go back or not, Yamamoto Shigekuni said, "This is an appointment for you. I have my own considerations, and there is no room for you to refuse." Then you asked me, "Is there a problem?" Yizan put his arms around his arms, not wanting to give the old man any face. "Is that what you mean?" "Yeah," Yamamoto Shigekuni nodded. "I didn't prepare you to have other opinions." "What the hell? Then you ask a yarn." Yizan stared at Yamamoto Shigekuni, speechless for a while. You know, there are really not many people in this world who can make him speechless. "Old man, are you trying to practice with me?" Hey, Yizan is still young, so Captain Yamamoto let him do more. Jingle Chunshui stopped Yamamoto Shigekuni's crutches and turned to look at Yizan. "Everyone is in a bad mood now, don't provoke old man Yamamoto. There's nothing wrong with your 10th squad anyway." "Who said there's nothing wrong with that?" Yizan frowned and wanted to refute, but suddenly he found that he couldn't refute. No, Dongxian wanted that guy to not see, so he didn't deal with it very much. Although originally there is nothing to do, and they are all thrown to the 3 seats, and the things that the 3 seats can't handle will be asked by Dongxian, and the things that Dongxian can't control will be looking for himself. Thinking about it this way, it's really nothing to have less Dongxian, not to mention that he has to leave, so we can make room for the big-breasted girl Matsumoto Ranju. The more Yizan thought about it, the more he felt that he had no reason to refuse. But wouldn't he admit it if he agreed? "Then I ask for a salary increase." Yizan raised his eyebrows. "I have to do the work of 2 people by myself." Yamamoto Shigekuni glanced at him. "We'll talk about this later. That's it, let's end the meeting." After speaking, he stood up from his seat and left. "What do you mean later?" Yizan looked at his imposing back. "I always feel that he is perfunctory Lao Su." "Then congratulations, there is no misunderstanding." Jingle Chunshui put one hand on his shoulder. "Yes, he is just perfunctory for you." "Are you still in the mood to joke?" "If I remember correctly, Miss Lisa. It's not a big problem with her. I went to the 12th division last night, and Urahara Kazuki already had an idea for a solution." Jingle Chunshui patted Yizan's shoulder without any pressure, "So it's only temporarily. Borrow your lieutenant for a few days." Yizan glanced at Jingle Chunshui with a look like "You're brain dead. You just said that there were unusual substances in the area where the accident happened last night. Reaper to void transformation. Didn't you hear?" "Ah." Jingle Chunshui heard Yizan's words, showing a dazed look on his face. "Also, the old man Yamamoto said that the central 46th room should make the decision. As far as I know, the old men of the central 4060 are more stubborn than the other. You think that they face the death gods that have become virtual, what decision will be made?" As soon as Yizan finished speaking, the expression on Jingle Chunshui's face was replaced by solemnity. "Maybe Urahara Kazuki has a solution." Jingle Chunshui frowned. His tone was a little hesitant, obviously not at all sure. "We all saw it last night. It's Shu's mask, and even the spiritual pressure has changed." Yizan pointed out the fact indifferently. "The difficulty of this matter is no different from turning Shu into a god of death." Then Jingle Chunshui froze. "I don't know him," and many of the captains who had not left also froze. "But Kazuki Urahara said a solution has been found. If that's the case, why don't you go to the 12th division? If there is really a way, there should be results by now. Stop by to see if Bengyu is still in Urahara Key's assistant. ... Sorry, I can only do this for the time being with my ability." Kazuki Urahara looked at the few people whose faces were still empty. "If I have more time, I can try some more methods." "No, it's better than expected now." Hiriko Mako pressed the mask on her face. "I originally wanted to monitor him, but I didn't expect." "Captain, the captain of the 8th division and the 10th division are here." Someone shouted loudly outside the door. Then I'll go and receive you. You guys stay here for now. Urahara Kazuki said, sighing. This matter is obviously a conspiracy, and this kind of power that can turn the god of death into a void. Urahara Kazuki can't help but think of the terrifying substance that he has only researched before, Benyu. Chapter 86_Urahara Kazuki's reminder. After this incident, Urahara Kazuki immediately went to the secret room to confirm, but he was relieved that Benyu was still there. But the existence of that power is also an indisputable fact. So, there is only one possibility. Besides him, there are other people studying this power. Moreover, the other party is unscrupulous, and even the captain dares to attack. Blue dye. Urahara Kazuki thought of this man at the time. As the third seat of the second division team in the past, Urahara Kazuki has never been relieved of Aizen, the captain of the supervision team under the secret mobile team. The most urgent task now is to find out the evidence that Aizen did these things. Urahara Kazuki looked at Yizan, who was sitting in the reception room, and an idea suddenly flashed in his mind. They are not suitable for visiting now. Although the problem has been temporarily solved, it is not very good. Kazuki Urahara didn't go to Yizan immediately, but first talked about the situation of the captains. Sorry, Captain Jing. After Yizan said those words, Jingle Chunshui had already had a hunch, and now he didn't feel any surprise, but it was still a little unacceptable. You mean, Lisa and the others have become empty? No, of course not. They are not in danger of becoming phantoms for the time being, but 183 can't be counted as death gods now. What do you mean by that? Jingle Chunshui didn't know how to do research, but felt that he couldn't understand Kazuki Urahara's words. What does it mean that there is no danger of becoming a ghost for the time being, and it cannot be regarded as a god of death? It's neither emptiness nor a god of death. Could it be a rectification without spiritual power? Even if it's the whole thing, there's nothing shameful about it, so why stop it from being seen? What's the matter? Jingle Chunshui's expression lingered. Do you need help? Urahara Kazuki covered his face. I thought what I said was clear enough. They are not ghosts or death gods now, but existences in between. I call this phenomenon ghosting. Void. Jingle Chunshui frowned. Existence between the god of death and the void. They have maintained their sanity for the time being, but they are still unstable. I can't guarantee that they will not continue to blur. Urahara Kazuki looked at Jingle Chunshui. So it is not convenient to show people. Oh, Jingle Chunshui suddenly realized, what will happen if you continue to become virtual? Become virtual. Urahara Kazuki nodded heavily. Since it's stabilized for the time being, we'll be fine again when we meet. Yizan said aside, I'm very worried about Miss Lisa. This is really inconvenient. Urahara Kazuki shook his head. If it were you, would you want to see someone else in such an embarrassing situation? If it's a beautiful girl, of course I will. Yizan nodded affirmatively. Girls are my driving force. I am so sorry, but some people in Shiren think differently from you. At least, neither Vice Captain Yahomaru nor Hiyori expressed their intention to meet the handsome guy to me. Yizan. Just when Yizan felt very speechless, Urahara Kazuki suddenly asked, Yizan, have you been very close to Aizen recently? This question made Yizan a little at a loss, and he walked very close to more than a dozen meanings. Literally close, or did he suspect something? However, doubt should not be enough. At such a sensitive moment, even if it is doubt, he should not ask directly. It is also possible that this guy wants to test himself. In any case, it is unacceptable. Isn't it very close? He's not a girl, why am I close to him? Yizan laughed. You'd better keep a little distance from him. Although there is no clear evidence, I suspect that what happened last night has nothing to do with him. It turned out to be to remind me. Yizan looked at Kazuki Urahara with a serious face in front of him, and felt a little bit of emotion. Suddenly a little embarrassed to lie to them. Intellectually, Yizan still knew that he would continue to play tricks. Anyway, Urahara Kazuki was exiled into the world, and it was already doomed that Yaiki and the masked army betrayed the Soul Realm. Otherwise, Aizen's card would be gone, and the masked army would be gone. He's just a vice captain. Can he achieve this level? Yizan pretended to be very surprised. If he has this kind of power, it would be very easy to overturn the Soul Realm. Urahara Kazuki's face froze. This is a dangerous force. I think you should have discovered it when I stated it just now. Now I am reminding you that Aizen may be a very dangerous person. I understand your love letter and will pay attention. Yizan nodded. Then can I see Miss Lisa? No. Yes. Yes. Urahara Kazuki said word by word. Okay. Yizan shrugged. At the same time, the 46th room in the center was arguing over the issue of the blurring of several captains. I have already asked the Technology Development Bureau. They can't completely solve the problem of the blurring of the captain and vice captain. This kind of change is irreversible and can only be stopped. Yamamoto Shigekuni leaned on crutches and looked serious. Opposite him is the central room 46 where the master holds the power of life and death in the soul world. So, a decision needs to be made now. How to treat them. After all, they are all the gods of death who have contributed to the Soul Society. As soon as Yamamoto Shigekuni finished speaking, the members of the 46th room in the central room were already discussing. Void and irreversible, so to put it simply, they are no longer death gods, but virtual. Am I understanding it right? Although I say that, but after all, they are all leaders and vice captains, and they are also the elites of our soul society. Letting them continue to blur, isn't it just to strengthen the virtual circle? If it can be contained, there should be help, right? Just kidding, just to contain it. His dream is now in vain. Yeah, I heard that everyone at the scene yesterday was frightened. It's too dangerous for such a person to stay in the soul realm. Yeah, who knows when it will be completely blurred. But after all, they have made a lot of contributions to the Soul Society. 4 captains, 4 vice captains. This is not a small number. It's unreasonable to pass away easily. Do you want to watch them fade away later? Chapter 87-Judgment. Before discussing these, we have to discuss another person's problem. A lean old man took out a letter and threw it on the table. Someone reported anonymously, Urahara Kazuki was the planner of this accident. Ling Tizai rushed to the place where the other captains were ambushed, but they were not infected and blurred like the others. In this regard, their explanation is that they use the forbidden technique. This is not discussed first. It is accurate after Urahara Kazuki. The reason for this is very suspicious. Quote. Indeed, he was the first to arrive at the scene. It may not have been possible that he had been hiding nearby to observe the development of the situation. Furthermore, he not only quickly came up with a solution, but also accurately judged that the loss of control of Hirako Mako and others was due to blurring. This kind of thing has never happened in the Soul Society in the past. Where did he get it from? Experience. This whistleblower letter is well written. Also, Urahara Kazuki came up with a way to curb the blurring in such a short period of time. Not only knowing the cause, but also the solution, it's really too suspicious. This person is a very dangerous existence. Have you forgotten about Yoshikunmaru? There is also Yoshimukuro who will absorb spiritual power and turn death into an ordinary whole. He's been to the Spirit King's palace. Isn't he a person recognized by the Spirit King? This doesn't conflict with what he did to betray the Soul Society. But there is no definite evidence that it was Kazuki Urahara who planned all this. At the same time, there is no evidence that he did not do it. I can't imagine anyone else doing this horrible experiment but him. Ni Yuli. He's always under surveillance. After a long time, the people in the central room 46 still did not discuss any results, whether it was about Urahara Kazuki, or about Hirako Mako and others. In the end, they unanimously decided to vote in accordance with the process. An old man saw that Yamamoto Shigekuni never said a word, and he didn't say 2 good words for the ghosts of death before the voting started. He couldn't help asking. After all, you are the subordinate of Captain Yamamoto, so you are not going to say 2 words for them. Sentence. He asked this question, partly out of curiosity, but generally because he wanted to know what Yamamoto Shigekuni was thinking. After all, Gode 13th was the existence that he founded, and if he disagreed, their decision was not very likely to be implemented. It would be embarrassing if the result was rejected again. I respect all decisions made by the Central 46th Room. Yamamoto Shigekuni's expression was flat. The man who asked got the answer and nodded, then we'll vote. Urahara Kazuki is also suspected of using the god of death as an experiment, but there is no definite evidence. The Mukuro, the non-spiritual child he developed, will take away the power of the god of death, so he is sentenced to permanent exile in the world. Raise your hands together. 38 votes in unison. The judgment will be executed immediately. Hiroko Meiko, Rokuchi Kensai, Aikawa Rao, Hokushiro Juro, Saraki Hiyori, Yahomaru Riza, Yu Jiaoshin Bagan, Kunanbai and others have been degenerated, irreversible, and there is a great danger. It may become a factor that is not conducive to the stability of the Soul Society. The judgment is handled in the way of dealing with falsehood. Those who agree raise their hands. This time, everyone hesitated a little, and then began to raise their hands under urging. 29 votes, the judgment will be executed immediately. Yamamoto Shigekuni frowned and said, after all, he has contributed to the Soul Society, so they should be given a chance to say goodbye. Yamamoto Shigekuni's request was very reasonable, and the Central 46 office did not refuse. Exile. Saifun Yuan Yi was shocked to hear the news. Because of the righteous Mukuro who does not have a spiritual child. She looked at the judgment notice in her hand with some irony. When did this happen? To deal with the false way. This is too much. She looked at the judgment notice in her hand tangled, and finally decided to go to Urahara Kazuki. With what she knew about that person, Urahara Kazuki would never be caught off guard. He can't leave the jingling court. Then, there is only one place where he won't be found, the secret training ground below the Hill of Double Death. Only the 2 of them knew about this place. Aizen, what you told me at the time was to use only 6-car boxing as an experiment. This was the first time Yizan took the initiative to find Team 5. Looking at Aizen Yusuke, who was seriously approving documents, he felt that he was in a bad mood. Although he also understands that he is a little angry. But Aizen, Yahomaru Lisa's sisters are involved, which is beyond his tolerance. Aizen heard the word, only use, that he could aggravate, and touched the back of his head with a smile. I said it was an accident, do you believe it? 1 becomes 8. You can just say that you don't. It just happened that Captain Hepping had some personal grudges, so he released a little bit of news. I didn't expect such a commotion, and I was also surprised. Lan Ran spread her hands, showing a helpless look. I thought you were at least a sophisticated person who allowed surprises to do experiments. This is an uncontrollable force, a controllable aspect, such as immortality, which I did. Aizen pushed the glasses, and the lenses reflected a white light. Urahara Kazuki did it for you. Yizan sneered and pulled out Zanpakuto instantly. Swish. Lan Ran only felt a light sound coming from her ear, and before she could react, Yizan had already jumped out of the window. The words he said when he turned around were still in Aizen's mind. This is the last time, and I have never been patient with disobedient men. What a terrible person. Aizen's fingers pressed against the wound that had burst open from speaking. It was on the neck, and if it was a little deeper, it would cut a blood vessel. In that case, I'm afraid there will be a lot of bleeding. No, he didn't exert any force at all, otherwise it would not be impossible to cut off his head directly. He looked at Yin Yuhi's blood stained on his fingertips with an inexplicable expression, but he didn't seem to be really scared, but more of admiration. I can't even see the movement of drawing the knife, and there is absolutely no way to avoid it. Chapter 88-lend a hand. Do you want to obliterate it as a fake? Yizan looked at the verdict in his hand. Generally speaking, Things like verdicts are not sent out on purpose. Besides, the Central 46th Room is not going to pull out these captains and vice-captains for public execution. The purpose of sending this is just to warn other gods of death. For example, don't act to help them out of a momentary emotion. After all, they are all colleagues. They have been together for decades and hundreds of years. It is too cruel to watch them die. Yizan shook his head with emotion. It is humane to allow visits before the final time. Passing through the deep corridor, inside is the room where the ghost of death is imprisoned. Yizan pushed open the door and saw countless masks. It seems that Urahara Kazuki can't control the power of Benyu well, and they can't even take off the mask. Can't it be broken? Yizan looked at the 8 masks of different shapes, a bit Alexander. It's on the face, you knock it off when you say it is knocked off. Tsuruuki Hayo said angrily. I kindly came to see you, so you responded to me like this. Yizan glared at her. Didn't Urahara Kazuki say he was under control? It's just under control. Riza Yahomaru's voice became colder in the dark room. There is no way to recover. How could Kazuki Urahara let you in? Because he can't come out to stop it. Yizan sighed, and he was sensitive to find another familiar breath approaching. You're here too. Saifeng Yuan Yi looked at Yizan in surprise. I have business to look for them. Can't I audition? In fact, I also think that the verdict of the 46th Room of the central government is a bit too much. After all, the 12th Division is detaining a lot of ghosts in the underground, and they have not completely become virtual, so they are doing this kind of inhumanity now. Judgment. Yizan's eyes swept over the people present, and then looked at Yi. Listen to your tone, do you think the same as me? Yi frowned, then nodded slowly. When she fought against Yizan in the hidden mobile team before, she found out that she is not much stronger than Yizan in terms of physical skills alone, and even the proud Shunpo. Even if he is the envy of Captain Yamamoto, she is not what effective method can stop his meddling. Let's take a step by step. She thought so. Yes, just as you thought. Saifeng Yuan nodded. Yizan knew this would be the case for a long time, so of course he nodded. Can I ask you a question? Ask. Why did you come forward to help them? Yizan's face was full of curiosity. Miss Lisa is Jingle's vice captain, and he didn't even come forward. Of course, I came forward because of Miss Lisa. But big sister Yi should didn't, and which man present? Huh. The end of the problem. Yizan is very rippling to pick up the eyebrows, and have a circle in the night. What is it? Do you want to find out what happened? Then wipe Kazuki Urahara's ass. Yizan chuckled. After all, Kazuki Urahara was also sentenced to exile. The guesses that Captain Hirako told me last night have been confirmed by Kazuki Urahara. It's the truth. Yi's dark face showed an embarrassing expression. He gave Yizan another glance, and then said seriously, after that the Central 46th Office received an anonymous letter accusing Urahara Kazuki of masterminding this matter. Obviously, this is a whole host. So I'm here to help. So this is really not what Urahara Kazuki did. Yizan cooperated and made a contemplative action. Facing Yizan's skeptical tone, Hirako Mako said decisively, it's not him. Do you know who it is? Liuch Quanshi looked at him in shock. How do you know? I suspected that person from the beginning, but now I am more certain. Hirako Mako was leaning against the wall. Last night, shortly after the 9th Division led by Kenshi set off, I received a notification of emergency support, and so did the others. Did you rush to that place because of this? However, Ju Nanbai also said that the distress signal from that place cannot be sent out. Fengchao Lujiro suddenly realized, so, the distress signal we received is just a bait to lure us into the past. Obviously so, Hirako Mako said, looking at Tsuruuki Hiyori. I'm just a little sorry for Hiyori. It was none of your business, but I ended up dragging you down. Bald, I have to follow up myself. I don't need you to apologize. Tsuruuki Hiyori snorted coldly. So, what is the verdict for us now? Maggot nest. Yi shook his head with some difficulty. Exile. We should be dangerous to the Soul Society now, right? Seeing Yi Yi's indescribable appearance, Yizan said the verdict neatly, according to the method of dealing with falsehoods. The central 46th room voted to decide, and the old man Yumoto decided to execute it. When the words fell, everyone fell silent. It must be complicated to be betrayed by the soul world that has been guarded for many years, right? Yizan shook his head, looked at Lisa Yazumaru, and felt that he should take the opportunity to brush his favorability. With such a good opportunity in front of you, is it still a man if you don't brush it? What's more, righteous, Ju Nanbai should also have a good impression of me who extended a helping hand to them. Although her green-haired Yuhi scarf is a bit strange, she is still a girl. Although they have made a decision, there is no need to abide by it. It is better to run away. Hey, Saifeng Yuan Yi interrupted Yizan, what do you mean by running away? What if you don't run away? Yizan raised his eyebrows, you don't think about proving your innocence, right? Maybe the person who received the order is already on his way. It's possible that old man Yamamoto did it himself. It is said that his Zanpakuto is very powerful, I can't guarantee that he will be able to resist his attack and take you out. Don't you think we are weak? Hiroko Mako grinned. Although we were recruited, our strength has indeed increased. Chapter 89_Save the Masked Army. He's right, you can't live in the soul world anymore. Saifeng Yuan Yi looked serious. The order for the 46th room in the center has been issued. As long as you are in the soul world, you will face endless challenges. Pursuit. Where can we escape to? Ju Nanbai asked in a low voice. For example, in this world. Yizan said, in my impression, except for internships, the Soul Society rarely sends people to the world, so it should be easier to avoid the pursuit if you go there. If you go to the world, you have to go through the gate of crossing the world. Yi Yi's face flashed thoughtful, I know how to open the gate of crossing the world, come with me. Yizan was surprised, don't bring Kazuki Uehara. He and Walling Teiji have already left first. Yi Yi turned his head, I came here to help them leave. It's so fast. Yizan sighed, and then suddenly realized, so you just sang and reconciled with Zishenzi, did you tell me that? That's about it. Saifeng Yuan nodded at night. I didn't expect you to trust me so much. You are a disciple of Yamamoto Chonguo, who knows if you will inform him. Saifeng Yuan gave him a blank look at Yi Yi, you have no self-awareness at all. Listen to what you mean, you don't seem to want me to help. Yizan frowned. Apart from you, there is also that Ghost Rock City 5 assistants. The other captains rarely turn a blind eye when looking at their colleagues' affection for so many years. Fengchao Luzhiro answered Yizan's doubts indifferently. But Yizan was not comforted at all, he was angry. Why does this sound so awkward? Why do you want to compare me with that arrogant man in Ghost Rock City? Because it's been less than a year since you joined the Guardian, there is no reason for you to take such a big risk for us. Isn't the general captain just like Jingle Chunchui, just hiding and watching quietly? Aikawa Luowu also felt strange, why did you rush out? Jingle Chunchui is hiding. Yizan looked around and saw a row of Yuhi's clothes in the corner. Like him, not helping, but not blocking, that's already kind. Well, if there must be a reason, it must be because Miss Lisa has captured me. Yizan said, grabbed Lisa Yazumaru's hand, and pulled it. They were on their way to escape, and Lisa Yahomaru didn't expect him to come out like this, but he was actually successful, and he took him into his arms, in front of everyone's eyes. Yahomaru Liza's face turned to Yuhi. You, what are you doing? I just want to see Miss Lisa more. After all, after Miss Lisa went to Immortal Stone, she can't see her as often as she does now. Yizan looked at Yazumaru Lisa affectionately, and said love words without changing her face, but Yazumaru Lisa was teased by him with a face full of Yuhi, pushing Yizan away from the coaxing and side glances of others. Where are we going? Yahomaru Liza changed the subject without saying anything. Saifeng Yuan Yi didn't give her face, but just replied indifferently, secret. At this time, a group of patrolling gods of death came from a distance, saw a large piece of white feather weave, subconsciously saluted, and shouted in unison, "Hello, Captain." Then they just felt a gust of wind hanging in front of them. The captains seemed to be in a hurry. Is this going to be a mission? The leader of death looked at their backs curiously. By the way, why did they wear strange masks? Maybe there is a special purpose. Another said, after all, he is the captain, and he must be different from us. Makes sense, keep patrolling. The above said to strengthen the patrol. I wonder if it has anything to do with the captains running so fast. There should be. Because the Central 46th Office and Yamamoto Shigekuni didn't want to make things bigger, and they never thought that someone would dare to let them go, only the captain-level death god was notified about the execution of the 8 captains and vice-captains. Ordinary gods of death don't know what happened at all, and it will or maybe, but there is no doubt at all. Of course, doubt and obstruction are useless. It's just an ordinary god of death, and anyone who comes out of the fleeing crowd can easily bring them down. Saifeng Yuan's house. Feng Chao Luzhiro looked at the building in front of him in surprise. Why are you here? Crossing the boundary gates are not just everywhere. Saifeng Yuan said at night, but did not go to the gate, but turned in a direction, walked to the corner of the wall, pressed one of the bricks, then pulled out the brick, and lifted a pull ring from the inside. The flat ground gradually rose. That was actually a secret passage. Amazing. Hiroko Mako stared at the dark secret road in astonishment. But you're not afraid of people from outside? Go in, you have to come out. Saifeng Yuan smiled, obviously not taking Hiroko's assumption seriously. Others, 940, didn't speak anymore and walked into the passage. Saifeng Yuan closed the entrance of the passage and walked in at night, lighting the torches on the wall. It's not a commonly used place, so I didn't plant fluorescent vines. Understandable. Zhaoshan Boxuan slid down the spider web that was accidentally stuck on his head. It can be seen that no one has been here for a long time. This secret passage does not lead directly to the exit, but is connected to other secret passages whose functions are unknown. Yizan glanced at the entrances that lead to nowhere, intuition that there are always a few hidden institutions in those entrances. Saifeng Yuan Yei took them around Kabuto in the secret passage, and finally reached a secret room. A simple sliding door was on one of the walls of the secret room. As expected of the 4 nobles, Hiroko Mako, who was completely dazed by the secret passage, looked at Xuanjimin with a moved face. There is actually a Xuanjimin at home. It's a secret, I can't tell it. Saifeng Yuan sighed at night. In order to save you, I expose the biggest secret of the family. Aren't you afraid of being implicated by us? In the end, Hiroko Mako still didn't believe that Saifeng Yuan would keep them at night, even though the facts were already in front of them. Chapter 90_Let Go. If you're afraid, I'll leave you alone. Yi pursed his lips slightly. If you have any concerns, you can tell me, and I will do my best to help. I didn't. Pingzi Junzi shook his head and looked at Saifeng Yuan Yei in surprise. Aren't you going? Why should I leave? Saifeng Yuan asked Yi. I don't have my name on the verdict. But the thing you helped us escape. Not many people have seen it, and even if they did, they can say that I was kidnapped by you. After all, you are a lot of people. Saifeng Yuan said Yi, and glanced at Yi Zan with some resentment. Anyway, it's not the first time they've been kidnapped, they should get used to it. Yi Zan raised his eyebrows in surprise. Why are you looking at me? It's nothing, I just remembered the incident that I was kidnapped by you before. Saifeng Yuan Yi shook his head helplessly, but no one believed it, so I said that you kidnapped me. What she said was of course serious. Yi Zan was just overwhelmed by the gorgeous thunder. Big sister, are you going too far? Yi Zan looked at her with contempt. If you have the guts to do it, don't have the guts to admit it. Just kidding, are you serious? Saifeng Yuan Yei sneered while opening the gate of crossing the world. There must be someone in the car to believe. You threaten me to take so many people down the secret road and go deep into the 4 corners of the car. Feng Yuan family, open the gate of transcendence. You can say that you are fascinated by my charm. Yizan shrugged. If you say that, some people will definitely believe it. For his words, Siphon Yuan Ye's answer was a merciless kick and one word: go away. Even if you've lost interest in men, don't make such a joke. Yizan dodged her kick. It's just ruthless and unreasonable. Boy, you. Yi opened the gate of crossing the realm and was eager to clean up Yizan, but when he turned around, he saw that he had actually hid behind Lisa Yazumaru. What does it look like to hide behind a woman? Come out and see if my sister doesn't teach you a lesson today. You're right, it seems that fighting with a woman is a very face-saving thing. How embarrassing it is to win, and how shameless to lose. Let's not make an appointment. Siphon Yuan Yi. Also, if you disturb someone else's relationship, you will be struck by lightning, do you know that? Dating. Siphon Yuan raised her eyebrows at night. Lisa, so you and this guy are in a relationship. Although your captain is not here, I still want to remind you that this guy next to you can only be a woman. The pervert looking right in the eye. Yizan clenched Lisa's hand around Yahomaru. Don't talk too much, Miss Yi, aren't you a woman? As his voice fell, Yi's face changed from black to Yuhi, and finally became ashen. Stinky boy, you are courting death. Help, murder, Yizan exclaimed exaggeratedly, but he did not hesitate at all, dodging Yi's attack every time he was about to get hit. I don't have any feeling of running for my life anymore. Am I the only one who thinks so? Ikawa Luo-wu scratched his hair. Why aren't they nervous at all? Hiriko Mako shook his head helplessly. It's a lack of roots. Their eyes at them, bald, they are trying to ease the atmosphere, don't you understand? I've said it many times, I have hair. Did I say you, bald pinko? As soon as this statement came out, Hiriko Mako immediately went crazy. You still said you weren't talking about me. I have hair, I have hair, how many times do you want me to repeat it? Tsuruuki Hiyori stood up, looked down at Hiriko Mako, and shouted, then I've said it many times, bald is not talking about people without hair, it means that you look like you don't know anything. Hiriko Mako was roared back 30 degrees by the voice, and after a while, he recovered his voice. Don't yell, it's even scarier when you yell at that Kiba tooth. Did you think you didn't have Kiba teeth? Bald. After speaking, both of them were silent. Hey, aren't you talking about arguing and adjusting the atmosphere? Why don't you stop arguing? Yu Zhan asked naively. Turn up the atmosphere and leave. Tsuruuki Hiyori roared. Are you here waiting to be caught? It's true, Captain Pingzi, why did he make the world angry again? Ju Nanbai looked at Junzi Pingzi helplessly. Blame me. Hiriko Mako pointed at himself in shock. I feel so innocent. When the words fell, Hiyori's slippers smashed onto his head accurately, making a crisp, bang, sound. Boy, do you think I'm very nice to you? Siphon Yuan Yi caught Yizan while he was staring blankly. It's really cheap for you. That's me letting you, okay. Yizan smiled helplessly. Women, what's wrong? ... After everyone left, Siphon Yuan closed the door to the world at night. Let's go, I'll take you out. Looking at this situation, are you really not ready to go? Did the existence of Lao Su change the plot? Doesn't seem to have done anything special to change the plot. Is the fate of the world so easily destroyed? Yizan was slightly startled, and then asked, I really don't understand, why don't you go to the world? Why am I going to the world? Siphon Yuan Yi raised his hand and pushed the hair that was scattered over his eyes to the side. I am the head of the Siphon Yuan family, can I just walk away? Aren't you going to live with your Urahara Kazuki Shuangsu? Stinky boy, what are you talking about? Siphon Yuan gave him a blank look at Yi. We are just good friends. Yizan chuckled. You lie, there is no pure friendship between men and women. Then tell me, what is your relationship with my sister? In my opinion, you are my buddy. Yizan said, putting one hand on Siphon Yuan Yi's shoulder. Hey, I admit that I liked your figure at first. But then, haha. Then what? What's so funny? Well, later, I found out that there are many more beautiful girls than you. After Yizan finished speaking, he ran out of the secret passage. Chapter 91 _ wait outside the door. If I hadn't had something to do now, I would have sewed up your mouth. Siphon Yuan Yei chased him out of the dark passage, and together with Yizan, they looked at Yamamoto Shigekuni with a face, and Jingle Chunchui, who was standing behind Yamamoto Shigekuni, and winked. What the hell? The old man Yamamoto is so fast. This has caught up with him. I thought I could just slip away and pretend that nothing happened. I didn't expect it to be right as soon as it came out. Yizan looked up at the sky and pretended to know nothing. Where are the others? Yamamoto Shigekuni's sharp eyes glanced back and forth between Yizan and Siphon Yuan Yi. With a serious face and such murderous eyes, Siphon Yuan shivered in the night, but still stubbornly said, I don't know. Let go of Shu, this matter has endangered the safety of Jingling Court. Do you think it is something that you can summarize without knowing anything? The head of the family, this matter can't be left like this. Let it go. Why didn't I know? Siphon Yuan Yi 197 turned his head to look at Yizan in shock. Did you know? This is different from what we said. Didn't you say it was kidnapping? Yizan looked at Siphon Yuan Yi, who was desperately blinking at him, and nodded slowly. Ah. Yes, isn't it Captain Hirako? They said they were playing a mask game. After Yizan finished speaking, Siphon Yuan Yi gave him an admiring look. Masquerade game. Yamamoto Shigekuni snorted coldly. I remember that the notice about handling this incident has been sent to all the captains. Don't tell me you didn't receive it. Ah, Yizan touched his nose. It's like this. Actually, we were held hostage. The topic is back on track, so let's continue editing. There are 8 of them, and we only have 2, so we can't beat them. Yizan sighed in a fake manner, and then showed a look of grievance. Who told old man Yamamoto that you didn't come earlier? What's the use of me coming here? Yamamoto Shigekuni snorted coldly. Let go of what Jing Lingting has committed again. Do you think you can just say a few words? Why let the felon from Jingling Court go away? I was held. I am. Yamamoto Shigekuni snorted coldly. No more words, and directly shook off Yuri and released the spiritual pressure. Completely different from the previous spiritual pressure that was released casually, the spiritual pressure released this time directly soared to a terrifying stage, covering his body like a substantial flame, burning the clothes on his upper body into ash. Obviously, he really wasn't going to let them go this time. But what Yizan will be shocked by is not his Reiatsu. After all, it is impossible to stay in the position of the commander-in-chief for so many years without strength. But even if he has been prepared, seeing Yamamoto Shigekuni's knotted body muscle, he still feels hot eyes. Why does such a shriveled old man have muscles? Is it worthy of that old face? What an unsatisfactory contrast. But now, these are not the point. The point is, what are they going to do? You fight against old man Yamamoto, you will definitely reveal your strength, and if you do this, it will disrupt future plans. If you don't fight hard, you won't be dragged to do a trial, right? Yeah, I'm so scared. Yizan hid behind Siphon Yuan Yi exaggeratedly, and the thought flashed in his eyes. It's not fun to be locked up in the confession palace or something. If you are also sentenced to exile for many years. It seems that there is nothing wrong. In this world, there are still sisters who are deceased masters, which is not bad. Stop calling. Do you think the captain is not angry enough? Siphon Yuan glared at him at night. Yes, it's useless to blame us. There are 2, but 4 captains. 4 vice captains. They are held hostage. To be precise, it should be 4 captains, 3 vice captains, and 1 vice priest. Yizan said with a smirk, his face innocent and helpless. It's all our fault, we are not strong enough. Yamamoto Shigekuni's reiki was like a burning flame, swirling around him. Siphon Yuan has a piercing gait, they should have left by now. Is this all guessed? Yizan glanced at Siphon Yuan Knight in surprise. The noble family has such a thing as going through the gate, shouldn't it be used as a last resort to save their lives and hide it as a secret? Why does it sound like everyone knows it? Knowing this earlier, they should have covered their faces when they ran just now. A big mistake. Sifeng Yuan saw Yi Zan's contemptuous eyes at night, and immediately wanted to understand what he meant. His heart aroused, but he was suppressed by Yamamoto Shigekuni's spiritual pressure, and he was so angry that he almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. Master and apprentice, no one is a good person. Captain Yamamoto, are you going to take the initiative to attack the current family of the Sifeng Yuan family at the door of the Sifeng Yuan family? This is obviously unbeatable, ready to press people with momentum. Just for Yamamoto Shigekuni, who established Jingling Court, is the power of the Sifeng Yuan family enough? Yi Zan stood behind Sifeng Yuan Yei, his eyes fixed on Yamamoto Shigekuni. It doesn't matter if he reveals his strength. The big deal is not to play. Go to the virtual circle and wait for the blue dye's plan to advance, and he can go to the world for a walk when he has time. Not bad. In short, no matter what it is, this will definitely not be tolerated. Why does Sifeng Yuan Yi repeatedly not look like a woman? After all, there are still 2 lumps of meat on her chest. It's very courageous, Yamamoto Shigekuni commented. Hearing Yamamoto Shigekuni's cold voice, Jingle Chunchui, who was standing behind him, suddenly stiffened, and anxiously began to wink Yi Zan and Sifeng Yuan Yi. But Yi didn't answer. Yi Zan just shrugged. Yuhi-colored spiritual pressure gathered in Yamamoto Shigekuni's hand, and the thick benzene cane cracked under the pressure of spiritual power, revealing the Zanpakudo inside. It looks very imposing. Yi Zan was not deterred by this way of appearing at all, but felt that his palms were hot, and the urge to fight made his blood boil. It's been a long time since I had a good fight. The people here are so weak, even the Void King is so weak. Since Yi Zan arrived in the world of death, Yamamoto Shigekuni was the most powerful person he had ever met. Chapter 92-Danger. Boom. The fire Yuhi-colored Reiatsu reached its peak the moment Yamamoto Shigekuni drew his sword, and rolled behind him like a wave. The purpose of this old man's establishment of the Guardian is to protect the justice of the world, but now, the captain of the old man has taken the lead in doing such a shameful thing. Is this going to be real? Yi Zan walked out from behind Sifeng Yuan Yaiki and blocked her, who had been stunned by Yamamoto Shigekuni's battle. Bullying women in front of me. This is not a good idea. Great. The surging blue spiritual pressure burst out from Yi Zan's body, and in a blink of an eye, a confrontation with Yamamoto Shigekuni was formed. Jingle Chunchui looked at this scene in shock and felt unbelievable. He raised his hat, his eyes widening in surprise. This is really... What was it? He couldn't tell. Yi Zan's spiritual pressure, or is it his courage to confront Shigekuni Yamamoto? Yi Xuanbai's Captain Yuji fluttered in the airflow formed by the collision of spiritual power, and Sifeng Yuan Yei's face behind him was even more complicated. Although she confronted Shigekuni Yamamoto just now, it was only because she had relied on it. Of course, Shigekuni Yamamoto did not dare to do anything to the patriarch of Sifeng Yuan, one of the 4 great nobles. But Yi Zan, he is from Liuhun Street, and he has no background. What he can really say is that he is only a junior disciple of Yamamoto Shigekuni. Is Yamamoto Shigekuni the kind of person who will show favoritism and be soft-hearted because he is a disciple? Of course not. At this moment, the only thought in Sifeng Yuan Yei's mind was to stop it. Stop the battle between Yi Zan and Yamamoto Shigekuni. You're crazy. In the Soul Society, whoever dares to oppose Yamamoto Shigekuni, what will happen? To put it simply, since Sifeng Yuan Yei was born, he has never heard of anyone who dared to draw a sword against Yamamoto Shigekuni. Pull out the Zanpakudo means we all start. Stop. For me, the moment I release the Reiatsu, it means the battle begins. Yi Zan said without turning his head, and then pulled out his Zanpakudo. Old man Yamamoto, I have never seen your Zanpakudo, this time let me have a good experience. Yi Zan. Sifeng Yuan Yei launched Shunpo, at first just to stop Yi Zan from drawing his sword, and after Yizan drew his sword, it was to stop him from attacking. But it was too late. The moment she arrived in front of Yizan in an instant, Yizan swung his sword towards Yamamoto Shigekuni. This speed, Yi opened his mouth and couldn't hide the shocked look on his face. At the moment when the two spiritual powers collided, Sifeng Yuan Yi felt a flash of white light in front of his eyes, and when he reacted, he was already outside the battle circle. Don't you have the name of Shun Shen? How can you stand in such a dangerous place just because you are dumbfounded? Jingle Chunchui put Sifeng Yuan Yi down and put his hands in his sleeves. It's been an eventful time. Yizan he. It's okay, he can't die. Jingle Chunchui said inexplicably, as long as he doesn't continue to say anything that irritates the teacher. Compared to that, I am more shocked by his spiritual power. Jingle Chunchui nodded in agreement. Well, I'm also quite shocked. It seems that your Reiatsu has improved again. Yamamoto Shigekuni blocked Yizan's slash. This look is very good. Do you think you will win? Well, not very sure. Yizan laughed. Although I am younger than you, Zanpakuto is not so skilled, and I can't compare to an old hand like you, old man Yamamoto. However, I will not lose easily. It's good to have self-knowledge. Yamamoto Shigekuni nodded affirmatively. Show all your strengths, and the most important teacher, this old man will teach you well. Actually, what you want to say is more of a lesson, right? Yizan raised his eyebrows, and took advantage of his strength to retreat to a distance of 2 or 3 meters away from Yamamoto. If this is Biling Ya, I won't lose to you. You have grown much faster than I thought. You are a good seedling, but unfortunately you have gone astray. Yamamoto Shigekuni said, and looked over. Since you know that the old man is going to teach you, why don't you reflect on your own? Wrong. This kind of thing, let's talk about it after the fight. Yizan caught the knife from Yamamoto Shigekuni, and the flame formed by spiritual power covered the blade, and the scalding temperature seemed to scorch the hair on his face. Yes, spiritual power also has attributes. Why is my spiritual power just spiritual power? Yizan looked at his Zanpakuto in confusion and shock. This is not scientific, is it? Boy, you still have to learn. Yamamoto Shigekuni sneered, the strength in his hands restrained. Take off the Captain Yori from your body. Why? Yizan looked at him suspiciously. Although Lao Su's figure is really good, I don't have the habit of being an exhibitionist like you. Yamamoto Shigekuni's old face was extremely tangled, as if he wanted to get angry and had to endure it. I told you the meaning of the Death Tyrant outfit and the Captain Yori on the day you became the captain. Isn't it just a fight? Yizan is so excited now that he just wants to fight. It's not like he and Yamamoto Shigekuni are doing endless discussions about the meaning of foreknowledge. Although he complained, he still neatly took off the Yori from his body and threw it on the side. Okay. Can we start the fight? When I'm annoying everyone the most, I'll just be a man. Boy, arrogant. That's because I have arrogant capital. Yizan smiled proudly, and the spiritual pressure gathered on Zanpakuto. Actually, my spiritual pressure can also be said to be substantial. Why can't it be turned into fire? The words fell, a shocking scene happened. The blue spiritual power on Zanpakuto twisted and turned into the shape of flames. It's really a human soul. But this is just a change of shape. Is it used for wool? Yizan raised his sword solemnly. Let's have a good fight. Old man Yamamoto, let me see how Zanpakuto is used. Chapter 93-Fight. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. Yamamoto Shigekuni said. The spiritual pressure on his body poured into Zanpakuto in his hands. For the sake of you haven't learned Shikai and Bankai. As your teacher, I will not bully you. Even if you use Shikai and Bankai, I don't mind. It's just that this jingling garden will be destroyed. I can't guarantee it. Yizan smiled lightly. Also, although I don't know Shikai and Bankai, but using Zanpakuto as a medium to use ghosts. I can do this. The 54th breakthrough. Waist inflammation. Boom. Orange yui-colored flames spewed out from the blade, and the power of the ghosts released by Zanpakuto was multiplied by an unknown number of times. and it swarmed endlessly towards Yamamoto Shigekuni, the target of the attack. There was a momentary seriousness on Yamamoto Shigekuni's face. Call. The raging flames collided with the wall of fire swung by Yamamoto Shigekuni, and flew up, down, left and right under the action of the hedging force, except for the position where Yizan and Yamamoto Shigekuni temporarily left. The 81 Binding Dao. Break the void. Before he had time to sing, Jingle Chunshui directly released the ghost path, standing behind the defensive wall with black patterns. Jingle Chunshui looked at Yizan and Yamamoto Shigekuni, who were standing opposite each other in the flames, with a solemn expression. It's a battle beyond imagination. Yi Song, when your Siphon Yuan family wants Jingling Court to submit a compensation report, can you be a little more merciful? Siphon Yuan Yi didn't have time to care about what he was talking about. In fact, she was completely stunned by the battle in front of her. It turned out that Yizan was actually so strong. You really dodged. Yizan didn't have any surprises. He just shook Zanpakudo's hand. It's just right, I can try something else. The 88th of Destruction. This is a discussion. Siphon Yuan Yi stared blankly at the blue-white thunder light shot from Yizan's hand. Use such a powerful ghost in Jingling Court. This is. One of them was a teacher and the other was a junior brother. Jingle Chunshui laughed dryly and looked up at the sky. Small trick of carving insects. Yamamoto Shigekuni caught Yizan's move. It's just a low-level ghost way. Yeah, I didn't say to beat you with ghosts, I just tried the power. Yizan laughed, and at the moment when Yamamoto Shigekuni was dealing with the flying dragon attacking thief and the thunder cannon, most of the spiritual pressure on his body was dissipated, and Shunpo was transported. Swish. Knives out. Shigekuni Yamamoto bowed his head in shock, looking at the shadow of Yuhi across his chest. It's Yizan's Zanpakudo. Without Reiatsu, he could only scratch a layer of skin at most for his already tough body after countless years of training. However, his beard. Yo, the spoils are in hand. Yizan reached out to catch the falling beard, and then dodged to a place where he was playing a few dozen meters away. Yi-Zan. Yamamoto Shigekuni's roar resounded through the Jingling Court, and the kind of death that had been frightened by the two Reiatsu almost didn't jump up. The fight between Captain Yamamoto and Captain Yizan is getting worse and worse. That's right, I passed by the first team again before, and I happened to meet their Biaolingya. That pressure. I won't go even if I wipe the road. Compared to this, it's just a trivial matter for Shudo not to walk. One person pointed to the sky in the distance. Yuhi blue and white Reiatsu was blasting there. By the way, isn't it stipulated that in addition to external battles, you can't use destructive moves in Jingling Court at other times? Don't know. Pig you, that's the commander-in-chief doing it himself. It doesn't seem to make sense. ... Full of desolation. Yizan and Yamamoto Shigekuni still maintained the posture of colliding with their blades. With them as the center, the surrounding area fell half a meter deep. This is that the ground was forcibly compacted by the spiritual pressure that they burst out. Siphon Yuan Yi doesn't know how to react. Maybe, they should be glad that the Siphon Yuan family is big enough, so there is only a courtyard inside the wall, so they won't lose much in this battle. But the secret passage under the ground. She was still stunned by the destruction caused by the two, and Jingle Chunshui, who was standing beside her, also trembled. Pat. The hat that was originally supported by his hand fell to the ground and spun around. Beard. Jingle Chunshui almost jumped up, pointing at Yamamoto Shigekuni's half-less beard, and burst into laughter. What is that? Before the ridicule was finished, Yamamoto Shigekuni's sharp eyes swept over. With that look, it seemed that if Jingle Chunshui dared to make any extra moves, he would give him a good lesson. Jingle Chunshui covered his mouth consciously, saying that he would never say much. He bent down to pick up the bamboo hat, turned his back and laughed so hard that he couldn't help himself. Yes, the strength is stronger than I imagined, Yamamoto Shigekuni said with a puzzled expression. However, the matter that you and Saifeng Yuan Yi let Jing Lingting off again can't be ignored. We were held hostage. Yizan shook the half-beard in his hand with a sincere expression. With the strength you have shown, it's probably not that easy to hold you and Saifeng Yuan Yi hostage. But in fact, I was kidnapped. Yizan refused to accept the account. Also, they threatened me with Miss Lisa's life. As Miss Lisa's boyfriend, how could I watch 3.8 her being taken by others? Threat. Hey, when did you become Lisa's boyfriend? Jingle Chunshui looked at Yizan in surprise. She didn't tell me. Shut up. Yamamoto Shigekuni angrily scolded. Even if they threaten you with Lisa Yazumaru, it's just a sham. But I'm not as thorough as you, old man Yamamoto. In my opinion, she is still my beloved Miss Lisa. Shukei doesn't have as good a figure as her. Well, Ju Nanbai's figure is also good. Except for the taste that's too bad to judge. Taking this as an opening remark, Yizan successfully brought Yamamoto Shigekuni into the ditch, and boldly started the debate about whether the captains were the ghost or the god of death. Chapter 94_Shaved Your Beard. I want to know, what is the basis for the decision made by the Central 46th Office? Just because of an anonymous report letter. Saifeng Yuan Yi looked gloomy. Treat 8. No, 9. Treat one of the 9 captain and vice captain. Don't you think this decision is too hasty? Sloppy. This is the result of the old man's repeated investigations. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked at Saifeng Yuan Yi, habitually touched his beard, and then froze. He glared at Yizan fiercely and said, if you want to know, why didn't you come with me? He's tricking us into throwing himself into a trap. Yizan pulled Yi in Saifeng courtyard. Is there any special cheating in the Soul Society? For example, when you walk in, you lose your spiritual power or something. There is no such place. Saifeng Yuan patted Yizan's shoulder at night. Let's go, eldest sister will keep you all right. Yizan glanced at her lightly. Just kidding, I'm almost protecting you. 10 minutes later. Standing in the secret laboratory underground of the Technology Development Bureau, Yi Xuanzhang looked at Shigekuni Yamamoto with a sense of spirit. Hiriko Mako and other 30 people took the initiative to cooperate with Urahara Kazuki to conduct experiments in order to gain strength. This idea is so big. I give full marks. Okay. Not only did the Central Office 46 receive the report letter, but even I received it. I asked the vice captain of the 5th Division about this matter, and Hiriko Mako was usually close to the 12th Division, and he acted in a covert manner. It's also true. Yamamoto Shigekuni leaned on crutches, his face full of disappointment with these captains under him. I didn't expect that they would do such a thing in pursuit of strength. Yizan listened to Yamamoto Shigekuni's words, but he didn't feel the heaviness in his tone. He just felt that if he didn't say anything, he couldn't hold back his laughter. So, this is the result of your investigation with Aizen Yusuke. Yizan is now sincerely admiring Aizen Yusuke. This man is really capable of making up stories. He picked himself out in a few words, and also convicted the crimes of Urahara Kazuki and Hiriko Mako. Aizen Yusuke's little boss in the early stage is really not for nothing, and even Yamamoto Shigekuni was fooled by him. As the deputy captain of Hiriko Mako, his words can be used as evidence. Yamamoto Shigekuni was obviously very dissatisfied with Yizan's doubts. Old man, both you and the Central 46th Room have already convicted them. If you don't run, you are a fool. If that's the case, wouldn't the person who wrote the anonymous report letter be more suspicious? Sefenjin Yei looked at Yamamoto Shigekuni. Why didn't Captain Yamamoto try to investigate who wrote this letter? Yamamoto Shigekuni's face darkened. The facts are in front of you. Can you find any reason to defend them? If they are really innocent, why should they and Urahara Kazuki run away? Because the order issued by the 46th Room of the central government is to treat according to the false. Saifeng Yuan frowned. This matter, the most suspicious person. Urahara Kazuki never reported the existence of this laboratory to me. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked coldly at the complicated experimental equipment behind him. Those who like to study dangerous goods and have research conditions, except for Urahara, who established the Technology Development Bureau by himself. Kazuki, is there anyone else? In the face of Yamamoto Shigekuni's questioning, Siphon Yuanyi was speechless, saying that Izinto Yusuke is the mastermind. In fact, if it wasn't for what Hirako Mako said yesterday, and later went to Urahara Kazuki for verification, even she would doubt that Urahara Kazuki was actually the one who planned all this. Sefenjin Yoichi believes in Urahara Kazuki and Heiko Mako and the others because she and Urahara Kazuki are friends who grew up together, but why should Captain Yamamoto believe the one-sided words of several convicted people? She sighed. Anyway, they've escaped anyway. Yamamoto Shigekuni turned his head to look at her. The Soul Society has lost nearly half of its combat power. For the sake of your fellowship and being held hostage, I will take this incident lightly. Can't relax, Yi, can you do it? Under Yamamoto Shigekuni's oppressive gaze, Siphon Yuanyi nodded with difficulty. I do my best. I hope you don't let me down again. Yamamoto Shigekuni said so, and then turned and left gracefully. Jingle Chunshui walked behind him, turning back and winking at them. When they reached the point where the shadows were gone, Yi Shuenkai said to Siphon Yuanyi, it seems to have passed. However, are you really going to hunt down Kazuki Urahara now? Of course not. Siphon Yuanyi wiped the cold sweat from Shigekuni Yamamoto's face. You can understand it as delaying time. High end. Yi Xuanchang gave a thumbs up at Siphon Yuanyi, smart and witty. But if you can't catch anyone, old man Yamamoto will get angry. This possibility, of course, I have long considered. Yi sat down on the messed-up workbench. The purpose of my delay is to find evidence that Aizen planned this 970. Quote. Oh, Yi-zan nodded clearly, then come on. Siphon Yuanyi looked at him in shock. Aren't you going to help me? I don't know how to help. Just kidding, of course I know where the evidence that Aizen planned this incident is, but can I sell my little brother? That must be impossible. Obviously, it's better not to help either side. Anyway, Siphon Yuanyi couldn't find any evidence in the end. I think what the old man Yamamoto said makes sense. Kazuki Urahara and Heiko are not without suspicion, and this laboratory. Yi-zan pointed to the experimental equipment behind him that was so complicated that he couldn't see any function at all. Look at it. It's a bit complicated. Siphon Yuanyi looked in the direction of his finger, and was speechless for a while. Forget it, I really can't force you on this matter. You can trust Captain Yamamoto's judgment. Siphon Yuanyi sighed. I'll investigate this matter myself, but you should also be careful with Aizen and don't get too close to him. That guy seems to be an honest man. Anyway, you don't necessarily believe me when I say it, you can judge for yourself. Chapter 95_Captain Replacement. Squeak. The sliding door was pushed open, and Yamamoto Shigekuni walked into the room with a face. The first thing he did when he sat down was to take out a mirror from the drawer, shaking his hands to look at his face. That stinky boy, he rubbed Kiba angrily. How dare you? Sparrow Minister Jiro originally lowered his head to correct the official document, but was attracted by Yamamoto Shigekuni's inflection point. As soon as he looked up, the brush in his hand fell to the table with a bang. Captain, your beard. Yamamoto Shigekuni's beard has been kept for thousands of years, and he never wanted to cut it, but now it's broken. Looks like it was still cut off. In response to his question, Yamamoto Shigekuni let out a cold snort, then took out a knife from the drawer, and shaved off his neatly broken beard little by little. Indescribable. Yamamoto Shigekuni shook his hand, and the snow-white beard fluttered down. He gasped in distress, glared at his adjutant, and shouted, "Shut up. I'm curious." Jiro, the head of the bird, was not at all frightened by Yamamoto's aura. After all, there are very few people who dare to fight with you in the soul world. The person who cut your beard is actually born. Yeah, I've already been born. Yamamoto Shigekuni snorted coldly. What? Are you going to pay homage to his honor? Sparrow Minister Jiro didn't care about Yamamoto Shigekuni's thorns at all. and began to analyze it seriously. This is definitely not Yukatake. Jingle has passed such a bloody age, isn't it Yizan? Who else is there besides him? Yamamoto Shigekuni asked rhetorically. Captain, was this attacked? After asking this sentence, Jiro, the head of the Sparrow, watched his captain's face turn black. He could almost see black resentment rising from behind him and quickly covering most of the captain's room. No. Yamamoto Shigekuni's roar sounded in his ears, and Jiro, the head of the Sparrow, took out his ears and looked at Yamamoto Shigekuni dully. No. You talk too much, get out. Sorry. Jiro, the head of the bird, bowed apologetically, and stepped out in 3 steps. Yamamoto Shigekuni exhaled heavily, grabbing at his long beard in anger. Insidious and cunning boy. ... In the faint morning light, a black hell butterfly came. Yizan yawned lazily, and stretched out his hand. Elect a new captain. Yizan yawned again after swaying the hell butterfly that stopped at his fingertips. Old man Yamamoto is too anxious. Should he be elected? It's better to just let the vice captain be on top. Do you think so? The future captain of the 5th Division, Yusuke Aizen. You really found me. Aizenwu Yusuke came in from the door. Good morning, Captain Yizan. Early. Yizan waved his hand casually. It seems that Jinghua Shuiyu's ability is very useful. Captain Aizen came to me early in the morning, so you don't have to be afraid of being discovered. Come on, you came so early. What am I doing? For you, you helped Saifeng Yuan Yi yesterday. You let go of all the experimental items. All. Lan Ran didn't dare to get angry. Her tone was full of depression and helplessness, and her eyes were full of looking at Yizan. Accuse. The relationship is for such a little thing early in the morning. Even if I don't help, isn't it a matter of minutes to release someone at night? The only thing that Lao Su did yesterday, which was very constructive and new, was to cut off old man Yamamoto's beard. You have already done the experiment. In short, the blurring is successful. Yizan scratched his hair, and you also wrote an anonymous letter to the 46th room of the Central. Compiled a very perfect story without any loopholes. The purpose is to kill them. They're all going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter if they run away. Seeing Yizan's unconcerned appearance, Aizenwu Yusuke frowned. Hirako Mako has always been suspicious of me, and after this incident, he should know it's me. Yeah, he knows. Yizan nodded affirmatively, and he insisted that you did it. Yizan was so calm, but Lan Ran couldn't speak. After a while, he thoughtfully said, I thought we had a common goal. The second half of the sentence is obviously, if you don't help me, how can you still be a hindrance? Yizan is not stupid. He heard his implication at once, shook his head and said, no way. Who asked you to involve Miss Lisa too? It's just a woman. Lan Ran frowned with a look of disapproval. It's just a woman, you don't even care about your plans. My plan is to find the Lingwang Palace. Relatively speaking, Bengyu is only secondary. Yizan said, stood up and stretched. Also, they are all fugitives now. As long as you don't, if you put any evidence into their hands, they will not be able to influence your plan. Bengyu in Urahara Key's assistant is an exception. But even if you catch him, is it the only one who asks where Bengyu is? Won't tell you. That being said, Alan Rand's honest face showed an embarrassed expression. Life is already so boring, wouldn't it be more fun to increase the difficulty? Yizan interrupted Lan Ran. Besides, they may not become my strength in the future. So that's your goal. Aizen pushed her glasses. It seems that the gap between me and you is still very big. Then keep working hard. Yizan said casually. How is the investigation of the King Spirit? There hasn't been any progress. Regarding the Lingwang Palace, there are only a few records in the corridor of the spiritual book. When a major accident occurs in the Soul Society, the Lingwang's personal guards will appear in the Jinchuriki column chariot. Aizen said, and we gestured in midair. Spirit King's palace is not in the same interface as us, but is independent of the soul realm, the virtual circle and the fourth dimension of the present world. As far as I know, only those who have Wang Jian can open the gate to the Li Royal Palace. Of course I know this, but the question is, how can we create this Wang Jian? Take all the spiritual power of the heavy spiritual ground. Chapter 96 Undercurrent. So you know more than me. Aizen looked at Yi Zan in surprise. Where did you know this? Of course from the author of this comic. Yi Zan chuckled. I heard it by coincidence. As you said. Aizen nodded. However, we still need more helpers before that. After all, we can't do such a huge project with the strength of just 2 people. You can also come up with some little invention to change the existing pattern of the Soul Society. Maybe the palace of the Spirit King will come to you. Having said that, Yi Zan thought about it carefully, and felt more and more that this idea was feasible. It's better that you don't mix with the 5th division. I recommend you to go to the 12th division to be the captain, so that you can do research openly and honestly, and maybe you will have a chance to be favored by the Spirit King. A rare look of blankness appeared on Aizen's face. I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm talking about the selection conditions for Team 0. Forget it, this is too much trouble, you should continue to follow the original plan. Yi Zan waved his hand. I'm going to a meeting now, the future captain of Team 5, I would recommend you. 397 inches. In the first team meeting room, Shigekuni Yamamoto sternly let the other captains look at him with surprise or confusion. Isn't it just that the beard is a little shorter, so surprising? The old man did not expect that this beard was actually a weakness. There was a dark tide in the conference room, and at this time, another protagonist also arrived at the scene, Yi Zan. Bah! I thought I came very early, but I didn't expect you guys to be earlier. Yi Zan glanced at his team of captains. By the way, why is even Captain Ujua so enthusiastic today? Look at me and I'll be shy. The gentle expression on Maujawali's face froze, and then turned his head away. Captain Yi Zan has misunderstood. Isn't it natural that the person who arrives at the end will be noticed by everyone? I didn't say it wasn't, it's just how Captain Ujaka sees me. I'll be embarrassed. I'm not talking nonsense about this. Seeing the flash of murderous intent in Ujaka's eyes, Yi Zan, who knew him well, didn't tease her anymore. Haha smiled and walked to his own position and stood up. Beauty girls have big tempers, I understand. Although she is in the 4th division of the medical team, she usually seems to be a gentle big sister. But the name of the first generation of Kenpachi is not for nothing. Speaking of Kenpachi, isn't the hairstyle of Yunoa not quite right? Tie the braids in the front or something. That's not because she fought Kenpachi Zaragi and got stabbed in the collarbone. Shit. Slack trough. What is the point that Lousy is ignoring? Doesn't this mean that the Yunoa Lai, Yunoa Kenpachi, Yunoa Yachianryu have already had a fight with Zaragi Kenpachi? No wonder that guy called himself Kenpachi, and picked up another 8,000 lu. Zaraki Kenpachi has always been pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked at Yi Zan's ghostly appearance, cleared his throat, and said, you should have all received the notice. Now the vacancies caused by the captain's betrayal are, the captain of the 3rd division, the captain of the 5th division, the captain of the 7th division, the vice captain of the 8th division, the chief and vice captain of the 9th division, and the chief and vice captain of the 12th division. Among them, the 9th division and the 12th division, which are both vacant, are the top priorities. Do you have any suitable candidates to recommend? The position of deputy captain of the 13th division has also been vacant for a long time. I haven't found a suitable person for so many years. Now there are so many vacancies, it is difficult to handle. Jingle Chunshui shook his head again and again. I have already been selected for my deputy captain. Eyes Naneo. The vice captain needs to be directly involved in the battle against Daxu. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked at Jingle Chunshui. Is she strong enough? Second only to the vice captain. Yamamoto Shigekuni nodded. Yes. Does anyone else have any recommendations? Seeing that the 9th division has no chief and deputy captains, I recommend the 10th division vice captain to succeed the 9th division captain. The candidate is the right one. Yamamoto Shigekuni habitually raised his hand to touch his beard, feeling the air, and then moved my hand tremblingly up. I remember when I dispatched Dongxian to help the 9th Division, you are still unhappy. This time, that time. Yizan shook his head and said, I don't want you to raise your salary anymore, just one request, my vice captain has to choose by himself. Yamamoto Shigekuni snorted coldly, the strength of the vice captain must be recognized by the entire team. Of course. Yizan smiled, I said this to prevent others from taking her away. Yamamoto Shigekuni was not far from entanglement with him, so he nodded, yes. I think that Uzuki Aizen, the vice captain of the 5th Division, can be the captain, so I recommend him to be the captain. Said Kuchiki Silver Suzu. Yizan immediately looked at Saifeng Yuanyei, and saw that she was hesitating to speak, but in the end she didn't say anything against it. He is really good. Even Hana nodded in agreement, although he is a little mediocre, he is more honest and reliable. Mediocre, honest and reliable. Yizan, who knew Aizen's true face, just wanted to laugh. Jinghua Shuiyu's hypnotic ability to control people's hearts is indeed very practical. Zanpakuto, it's still someone else's. Thinking about his own Yao Raihui, in addition to the domineering name, Shikai still doesn't know where it is. Practicing skills is a tough process. That's him. Yamamoto Chankuni nodded. The rest are the captain of the 3rd Division, the captain of the 7th Division, the vice captain of the 9th Division, and the vice captain of the 12th Division. Are there any other candidates to recommend? The captain of the 12th Division, why don't they let their 3-year-old Niyuli take over? Jingle Chunchui said, anyway, there is no more suitable candidate. He was brought out by Kazuki Urahara from the nest of maggots. How can such a dangerous person be the captain of the 13th chapter of Gote? Shuru Yukitaki objected, at least one should be selected. If I remember correctly, the 4th seat of the 12th Division is also from the maggot's nest. There is no more suitable candidate right now. Jingle Chunchui smiled, besides, they can come out of the maggot's nest, right? Has the charge been cleared? Chapter 97_Kenpachi, Kenpachi and Kenpachi. Then it's settled, Yamamoto Shigekuni said. The remaining vacancies for the captain and vice captain are not in a hurry for the time being. You have suitable candidates that you can recommend at any time. Now let's talk about a few who defected. The matter of the former captain and vice captain. Yeah, after talking for so long, I still haven't figured out what's going on. Ghost Rock City Wusuk said loudly, why are there so many people suddenly missing? Yesterday it happened suddenly, you shouldn't know what happened. You know, but only a small part. Yamamoto Shigekuni glanced at the audience with a serious look. The cause of the incident was the taboo of the former captain of the 12th Division, Urahara Kazuki. He used the psychology of the rest of the people to pursue power, and launched an experiment that blurred the boundaries between the god of death and the virtual. The vice captain of the division, Lisa Yahomaru, the captain of the 9th Division, Liuch Kensai, the vice captain of the 9th Division, Nanbai, and the vice captain of the 12th Division, Hiyori Sarakaki, all participated in this plan. Quote. He waved his hand to stop Jingle Chunchui, who wanted to defend his former vice captain, no matter what the reason was at the beginning, whether it was voluntary or not. It is an established fact that they falsified, and then they did not accept the ruling of the 46th room of the Central Committee and defected to the world privately. The crime of betraying the Soul Society is indeed established. If you want them to die, anyone with a brain will know how to run. Yizan spat out a sigh of relief. Yizan, I haven't settled with you for helping the sinner escape. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked stern. Do you know what's wrong? How many times have I said this? I'm being held hostage. Is it wrong to be held hostage? A person who can single-handedly shave Yamamoto Shigekuni's beard will be held hostage. The expressions of everyone present were different, but for Yizan, it was greatly improved, able to bend and stretch tilde, not ordinary people. Ghost Rock City Wusuk is a rude person. He can never hold back his words, so he immediately asked, well, I have a question that I have held back all morning. Yizan, the captain's beard. Cough cough. Yamamoto Shigekuni coughed vigorously, but this did not interrupt the enthusiasm of Gosuk Wusuk of Guiyancheng for questioning. He didn't even realize the significance of Yamamoto Shigekuni's cough, and continued to ask, "Did you cut it?" All the captains present, no matter how old or young, looked at Guiyancheng Wusuk with admiration. To be able to ask this sentence in front of Yamamoto Shigekuni carelessly, this is not just a bold sentence to describe it, it is simply no wink. Maojawali shook his head helplessly, and said in a low voice, "This sword art is really not as good as a generation." Yizan looked at the eyes of a whole room of people, only to feel the pressure. Especially Yamamoto Shigekuni's threatening eyes. If I nod, will old man Yamamoto come to Benkai directly? Once Zenka no Tachi comes out, will they die together? You can ask the commander-in-chief about this kind of thing, why ask me? Yizan really couldn't understand the behavior of the Ghost Rock City Wusuk, which was almost like courting death. How can I ask myself such a thing? Iota. Then you ask in front of your own face, ignoring your black face, is this okay? That's a real deal. Yizan looked at Guiyancheng's 5 assistants speechlessly, ignored him, and turned to face Yamamoto Shigekuni. "Old Yamamoto, is the meeting over? I'll leave after I'm done. If you don't speak, I'll treat you as the end of the meeting." "It seems to be all right, then I'll go first," Yizan said to himself. "Goodbye everyone." "Exactly, I have something to do, let's go together." Jingle Chunchui immediately followed, and then Saifengyuan Yaiki and Yukataki Shizuru also followed. "Hey, why are you all gone?" Guiyancheng Wusuk looked at the backs of everyone suspiciously. "If you are curious about the old man's beard, you can ask me yourself," Yamamoto Shigekuni said with a gloomy face. No more." Until this time, the fighting instinct of the 5 helpers of Guiyancheng reminded him that the danger was coming, however, it was too late to run at this time. "Such a person can actually become a kenpachi," Ujawali said in a low voice. The disdain and coldness in that tone was really. Yizan sighed in his heart. The eldest sister is good-looking, but it's too dangerous. "What, is there something wrong with Captain Yizan?" Maojawali found Yizan's eyes. The coldness and frost on his face receded in an instant, and then turned into his signature gentle smile. "If you are uncomfortable, if so, why don't you follow me to the 4th Division for an inspection? I'll do it myself." "No, I still don't need it." Yizan shook his head. "Just kidding, go at this time, isn't that looking for abuse?" Ujawa specified that lousy would be regarded as a vent, and it was not worth it. "I feel good about myself. I thought that Captain Yizan wanted me to check in person, but it turned out that I had misunderstood." Ujawali chuckled. Captain Ujawa didn't misunderstand. Yizan gathered his spiritual power at the soles of his feet. "I really hope that Captain Ujawa can do the inspection for me by himself, but it's not the inspection that your fairy had in mind, it's another one. Species." After he finished speaking, he ran away without a trace. Ujawa looked at his back, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. The rest of the people watching from start to finish, etc. "Our little junior brother. It's really not easy." Jingle Chunchui supported his bamboo hat. "Yesterday I fought with the captain, and today I'm with the Captain Ujawa." "Indeed." Shiro Uzumaki nodded in disbelief. "At least he knew how to escape, so we shouldn't have to collect his body for the 2 of us as senior brothers." "It's really hard to say." Jingle Chunchui shook his head again and again. "Who knows when these 2 people are offended and which of them has no sense." "Don't worry, he escaped fast enough," Saifengyuan Yi said. Jingle Chunchui glanced sideways at Saifengyuan Yi. "Yi Song, it looks like you are in a better mood. Now that the matter is settled, you should keep an open mind. After all, the results are not bad." "Yeah." Saifengyuan Yi didn't want to say more, nodded hastily and left. "Come on, floating bamboo, let's go have a drink." "You still want to drink at a time like this? A drunk can relieve 1,000 sorrows." Chapter 98 _ Origin. Brother Yizan. Kuchiki Rukia was talking to a Sanjing Renji, and when she saw Yizan's figure appearing at the door, she ran over immediately. Rukia, long time no see. Yizan touched his octopus head and received a look of admiration from the girl. How was your time at school? Everyone is very good, and you can keep up with your studies. Rukia looked at Yizan expectantly. Is brother Yizan here to see me? Yeah, I've been a little free recently, so is the guardian. I'm going to discipline the ward. Yizan laughed, then got up and walked towards Zaraki Kenpachi, who was sleeping in the corner. This guy is sitting in a row with Rukia in the first grade classroom. However, as a person who knows nothing about ghosts and only fights, letting him go to school is also embarrassing for him. Yizan supported his forehead weakly, then kicked him. Get up. After the words fell, the spiky head moved, revealing a face that was obviously very ferocious, but Yizan could see a bit of a grieved face. Big brother. Does your voice sound a little embarrassed? Don't use such a disgusting tone of voice for a guy who will repeat his first grade. Yizan said angrily. Zaraki Kenpachi showed a look of disdain on his face. It's useless to learn about ghosts, as long as I can fight. Only people who are not strong enough will want to rely on that kind of thing to win. However, the fact is that even Bachanliu has reached the second grade. Yizan sneered. I have to tell you, if you stay in the first grade, you will never be the captain. Zaragi Kanbayashi stayed. Don't lie to me, you can be the captain after graduation. I still know that. Who told you that you can be a captain after graduation? Yi Xuanzhang looked at him with a sense of hope. Even if that is established, you must be able to graduate first. If you sit in a first-grade classroom all your life, you won't be able to graduate. Quote. Zaragi Kenpachi Yuya's expression changed. Didn't you graduate in 6 years? You are dreaming. Yizan punched him in the forehead. Come with me. Brother Yizan. Rukia looked at the interaction between Yizan and Kenpachi Zakagi, looking at the interaction between Yizan and Kenpachi, with an abandoned expression of resentment. Rukia, what's the matter with you? No. Rukia shook her head. Don't you still look at me like that? How does this get me going? Also, is there something wrong with this scene? Yizan raised his eyebrows suspiciously. It's really déjà vu. This girl won't like me, will she? To confess. It doesn't look like it. Yizan denied his guess, so he reached out and touched it. I'll go first today. You'll go back to the 10th division after the school holiday. Yes. Hearing this, Rukia's eyes lit up and she nodded. Why do you call me out when you pick up girls? Asked Kenpachi Zakagi standing in the open air. Of course there is a reason for calling you out. Yizan looked at Kenpachi Zengi. How does it feel to seal your power? Quote. Why are you called Kenpachi? Why are you asking this? Zaragi Kenpachi sat down. I've never asked before. If I ask you, just say, don't talk about something. I don't like reminiscing about the past. Zaragi Kenpachi said. Okay. If you want to ask, then I'll think about it. As Zaragi Kenpachi said that, he fell into contemplation. It can be seen that he really thought very seriously. This matter started many years ago. The people in Liuhun Street have no names, and neither do I. I know that later, I met a person. Outsiders. Zaraki Kenpachi hid behind the mountain of corpses and watched a group of neatly dressed people stop not far away. The one in the middle in white looks to be in the lead. How dare you come here? The clothes are the same as the owner of this sword. The leader should have better weapons, right? Zakagi Kenpachi's eyes were boiling with fighting intent. It just so happens that I'm bored too. Zaraki Kenpachi clenched the sword in his hand, rushed out when the man in white approached, and stabbed her in the throat before she could react. Uno Hanalai stepped back to avoid the fatal blow, healed his wounds with Oni. And then pulled out Zanpakuto. Clang. Zaraki Kenpachi swung his sword to block her attack. You are very strong. Ujawali looked at the half-old boy with sharp eyes in front of him, and the admiration in his eyes flashed. You are also good. I like this look very much. Then let's have a good fight. I haven't met someone who can be my opponent for a long time. Zaragi Kenpachi showed a wanton smile. I will cherish you. What happens when two people born to fight meet? Naturally it is a fight. No ghosts, no shunpo, just a battle that simply uses physical power. So strong, to be able to fight with Captain Ujiwa. Captain Yusohana usually looks so gentle, but you're a newcomer at first glance. The beauty of Captain Unohana lies not in the peaceful look she has when she uses the answer, but in the look she enjoys in battle. Our 4th division is not a cure. The newcomer was interrupted before he finished speaking. What do you know? The purpose of Captain Unoka's learning the Tao is not to treat other people's superficial reasons, she is to enjoy the battle better. When the civil servant's death god was discussing this intensely, the battle between Zanaki Kenpachi and Unohana's 5.8 fierce became more and more intense, but Zanaki Kenpachi was more and more reluctant to start. This will allow him to experience the fun of fighting, killing one is one less. With this knowledge, he subconsciously restrained his strength and kept himself at a level similar to that of his opponent. It was also because he suppressed his power that he was accidentally slashed on the left side of his face by Karatsu Unohana's knife. You are very good, Ujawali said lightly. You have successfully pleased me. What is your name? The people on the street don't need names. If you don't have a name, I won't be able to find you in the future. Why don't I give you a name? Kenpachi. I don't need it. Zaraki Kenpachi held Zanpakudo. We have this time, why don't we fight again? Chapter 99_ There is no gender in Kenpa's eyes. Kenpachi is not just a name, it's a title, it represents the strongest god of death today. A god of death who can use 8,000 kinds of swordsmanship. It was originally my title, don't you think it suits you well? The strongest Grim Reaper. Zaragi Kenpachi nodded. If that's the case, then I'll call it this name in the future. Zaraki Kenpachi's memories ended. When I think about it now, I still think that person is very strong. Zanaki Kenpachi looked up at Yizan. Of course, you are also very strong, but I can't beat you, I know that. You can't beat me, so you followed me. Yizan nodded clearly. Where's your knife? What? Isn't there a Zanpakudo you fought against Unohana? That. Zaragi Kenpachi scratched his hair. I lost it. Lost. Yizan looked at Zengi Kenpachi, and suddenly he didn't know what to say. It's like having aphasia. By the way, what's that Ujiwa? Zaragi Kenpachi asked suddenly. Yizan looked at Zengmu Kenpachi quietly, and suddenly thought of a perfect description, as if 30 was tailor-made for him, developed limbs and simple mind. Ujawali is the woman who fought against you. Women. Janba scratched his hair again. What woman? The woman you mentioned just now, the one who gave you the title of Kenpachi. Zaragi Kenpachi was shocked. Isn't that a man? Yizan imagined Maujawali's face. When she was not injured, she wore 2 big braids, and her face was still the same. How frustrating does the eyes have to be to get the gender of such a beautiful woman wrong? Although he seemed to have disheveled hair when he was fighting, she had boobs. I can't stand it. You won. Yizan turned to Byakugan. So now do you want to continue to pretend to be weak and enjoy the sense of accomplishment of bullying your classmates in Junyang, or do you want to be a god of death and be a captain? Is Reaper strong? Said Kenpachi Zaragi. The ones who came to school were weak. I can hear it from your words. You didn't even let the god of death in the actual combat class at the knife school. They're not as good as the Ichimaru Silver you said, but that guy hasn't come to school for a while, and I'm bored. I can't blame it. Yizan, indeed, I can't force you. Zaragi Kenpachi heaved a sigh of relief. Why don't you go to be the god of death? Just in time to find something for the Ghost Rock City 5 assistants. Didn't you say you can't be captain? I've changed my mind now. Yizan smiled. Ichimaru Silver won't go back to school anyway, and it won't help you if you stay here. Oh, Zaragi Kenpachi nodded without any comments. There are 3 ways to be a captain. I'll tell you one: beat the current captain. It's that simple. Zengmu Janpachi looked at Yizan in surprise, accusing him. You lied to me. What did I lie to you about? You said you have to graduate to be captain. That's right. Now you can be captain without graduating. You haven't become one yet. Can you speak in such a sure tone? Sooner or later. Zaragi Kenpachi grinned, full of fighting spirit. Find a team you like to sign up for yourself. I don't care about you. Yizan was helpless. If others don't agree, you can fight hard. Don't play around like the one at Saidanfang. After coming out of Junyang, Yizan walked slowly to the 5th division, and unsurprisingly, he saw the figure of Ichimaru Silver here. When Ichimaru Silver saw Yizan, he suddenly took a few steps back. Captain Yizan. Is the 5th division fun? Yizan asked with a smile. It's not bad. The smile on Ichimaru Silver's face seemed to be dying. Captain Yizan is here to find Captain Aizen. He's in the office. Do you want to go over there? Or should I call him for you? Don't worry, Yizan said with a smile. Let's talk for a while. Ichimaru Silver had no choice but to nod his head. In a blink of an eye, everyone has graduated. Yizan sat down in the corridor, and opened the conversation with the opening remarks. I really miss going to school. As far as I know, Captain Yizan has not been in school for more than half a year. Even if you know, you don't have to say it, right? Sure enough. It's because of the shortness of my student life that I cherish and miss it. Don't you think so? Ichimaru Silver nodded silently. Yizan squinted his eyes and went straight in. Are you and Matsumoto Ranju on good terms? A friend who grew up together. The expression on Ichimaru Silver's face remained unchanged, but his voice became a little nervous. Just friends. The atmosphere was subtly dignified for a while, half a sound. Ichimaru Silver is huge. Childhood. 283 inches. It turned out to be just a childhood sweetheart, so I can rest assured. Yizan gave him a provocative and smug smile. The business is over. I still have something to do with your captain. You can do it. ... What you're looking for with Silver is serious business, so what are you looking for in me? It's irrelevant, Uisuke Aizen asked as he sorted out the various files on the table. I'm looking for you. Of course it's a hidden thing. Yizan winked at him. For example, about Kazuki Urahara's foothold in this world. They hid the Reiatsu with the righteous Mukuro. What Shifunjin Yaiki told you? No. Yizan shook his head. Are you nervous? Didn't even hear what I said. It's about. Aizen Yusuke looked at Yizan and said nothing. You can monitor Yaiki. She should contact Urahara Kazuki and the others in the near future. As the head of the Sifeng family, she has done her best to help them once, and will she help them a second time? Lan Ran's eyes flashed with suspicion, and finally she nodded in response. I see, I will send someone watch her. That's it. Yizan turned to leave, thought for a while, and mentioned Aizen again. You don't have to find Kazuki Urahara's piece of collapsed jade, and it's not the same to refine your own soul. Quick. Chapter 100 _awareness is higher. The collapsed jade I made didn't work. Aizen did not shy away from her failure. Although I don't want to admit it, it is indeed not as good as the collapsed jade of Urahara Kazuki. So, it's actually because your skills can't compare to Urahara Kazuki? Yizan asked. You can understand it this way. Aizen nodded. After all, I'm not just researching for research, this is fundamentally different from him. Then we can only find his Benyu. Yizan shook his head. This is difficult. As long as you find his whereabouts, it is not difficult for him to hand over the Benyu. Aizen said, I have discovered something this time, and I am going to find an opportunity to go to the virtual circle. During this period, can you help? I'm taking cover. Ichimaru Silver is on the same team as you. Yizan raised his eyebrows. Why did you think of letting me cover you? After all, he only has 3 seats, so it is somewhat inconvenient. Aizen said, If there are other captains or vice captains asking him to do something, he can't refuse. Why do you sound like you mean something? Could it be that I misunderstood? Aizen smiled and shook his head. You misunderstood. I just hope that Captain Izan will take more care of Ichimaru-sensei. I listened to the person who took care of him, didn't I? Take more care of him. That would be troublesome. Izan pretended not to understand Aizen's hint. Does it mean that I will often come to the 5th division in the future? Hearing Izan's words, the smile on Lan Ran's face became a little embarrassing. He struggled for a long time, and said with some broken jars, I'm actually quite strange. I always feel that Izan, you seem to have a problem with Ichimaru-sanshi. When did I say that? Izan asked back. I had an opinion. Aizen will look very headache, and the simple and honest smile of the sign can't be kept. Can you tell me why? The reason is that he is not pleasing to the eye. Izan said. His face is so disgusting. Is this a reason? After all, I'm a partner who works together. Lan Ran said bitterly. You're a little. There is another reason. Izan looked at Aizen with a smile, because he looked like he would betray. You shouldn't believe it, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, don't tell me about my existence. I want to watch the show anyway. Izan said, standing up. No matter what the circumstances, you can't tell me I leaked out. I understand. Aizen nodded. By the way, give Ichimaru Silver something more. Don't let him wander around when he has time. Okay. The time to pick up girls must not be left to him. Silver standing not far away. Obviously, he wanted to eavesdrop, but he didn't know what he heard under the influence of Aizen Jingwashueyu. Ichimaru-sanshi, Vice Captain Aizen responds to me, and will train you well in the future. Izan said with a smile, don't live up to my expectations. Really, thank you Captain Izan for helping me in front of the captain. Ichimaru Silver didn't show any emotion. I will do my best. By the way, was the original 3 seats killed by Ichimaru 3 seats? That's an honest man. You are too hard. There will always be times when you can't stop fighting. Ichimaru Silver didn't respond to this. The day he became the god of death, he should have this kind of consciousness, or die in the hands of Shu, or be defeated and die. So you also have this kind of awareness. Ichimaru Silver was visibly stunned for a moment. Of course, I have too. Consciousness is very high, continue to maintain it. Izan chuckled. Looking at his back as he turned and left, Ichimaru Silver only felt that the sharp-edged 10-like nail behind him had pierced into his heart. A man that he hated intuitively. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he turned around and walked into the captain's room. Captain Aizen is really diligent, and he started working as soon as the guests left. Silver, Aizen asked without looking up, what's the matter? It's nothing, just a little curious. I wonder if Captain Aizen can answer my doubts. What? Does the captain's mirror flower water moon not work for Captain Izan? Why do you ask that? Because his behavior towards me seems to have intensified since you talked to him. The ability of the mirror is only a guiding role, and it is impossible to completely change a person's thinking. I always feel that my girlfriend is going to be robbed by him. Ichimaru Silver touched his nose and said in a sad tone, compared with the captain, who is stronger. Aizen glanced at him. Why do you ask that? If he is stronger than the captain, there is no chance for his girlfriend to be taken back, right? Ichimaru Silver looked at Yusuke Aizen, who was known as a good old man. Who would have thought that such a person would be a conspiracy and plan to overthrow the pattern of the Soul Society? Also wanted to make that horrible thing. If it wasn't for him passing by at the time, maybe Luanju would not have survived at all. I wanted to be a god of death for revenge, but it turned out that it was almost impossible to defeat this guy. The power gap is already there. If that Izan is strong enough, he can protect the Chaos Chrysanthemum. You still want the captain to show up for something like stealing a girlfriend. Aizen sneered, if you have time to think about these irrelevant things, why don't you finish the work that you should do in the 3rd seat first? Hearing this, Ichimaru Silver froze for a moment. Work. You've just been in the third seat, and some tasks are still unclear, so you ignored them. Aizen put down the pen in her hand. This is your task for the past few days, don't leave it behind. So much. Ichimaru Silver looked at the paper in his hand in shock. Because of the defection of the captain, Jinglingting had a backlog of food, and now it is allotted to each division. The 5th division has no vice captain, so you will have to work harder as the third seat. Ichimaru Silver silently accepted this task list. Is this the training of the captain?